Chapter 4350. Luyin was still recovering when the door opened and 8-Color's voice came out. Luyin, the war is over. Luyin opened his eyes and looked at the door. Not fighting anymore? It's over. We won. This was expected. Luyin asked, and Biluo didn't plan to kill me? 8-Color said, if the Mudwater Kingdom gets any closer, the war will come again. It's not your war alone. Luyin sighed, that's more like it. Since it's over, can I leave? The door is yours. You can leave at any time. Where does the door lead to? Trace. Luyin's eyes flashed, send me back to where you took me from. 8-Color didn't hesitate, sure, change the destination to human civilization. Right, where is this? How far is it from human civilization? Luyin asked. 8-Color didn't answer, this war is over. Trace. After that, the door was still there and 8-Color didn't reply. Luyin stared at the door and got up. He didn't know if they were leaving one by one. He had to leave too. Otherwise, who knew if Biluo would come back for him? Just as he was about to leave, suddenly, Luyin looked in another direction. This is? At the same time, far away in that direction. It was a huge Mudwater Kingdom. Biluo looked at Luyin at the same time. The two were extremely far apart. It was beyond Biluo's range. But at this moment, they were looking at each other, even though they couldn't see each other. This wasn't a look but karma. Luyin used Mudblade to increase karma, but he suddenly found that Mudblade's karma was connected to Biluo's, allowing him to know Biluo's location. How could Mudblade's karma be connected to Biluo's? He had never encountered such a thing. Or he had encountered some creature's karma and been discovered. The 7 treasures Sky Toad was discovered by Ancestor Shan, which led to the exposure of human civilization. But this situation was different. It was like Biluo's karma was connected to Mudblade's. But they were clearly two separate entities. Luyin originally wanted to let Master Grass test if there was human civilization on the other side of the door. He didn't trust 8-Color, but he didn't hesitate to take them through the door. If they were any later, Biluo might really come for them. He knew Biluo's location and Biluo knew him. In the distance, Biluo. Karma. This scoundrel even had the power of karma. How troublesome. Unfortunately, if he had escaped a little later, he would have been able to kill his way over. The end of the war with the unknown was not an agreement. They could still fight if they wanted to, and there was no violation of the contract. What a pity. The other side of the door was indeed the human civilization. After Master Greengrass and Eternal Life Bearer returned, he turned around and destroyed the door to prevent Biluo from chasing after him. Only after the door was destroyed did Luyin finally relax. What happened just now? Why was Clayblade's karma connected to Biluo's karma? This shouldn't be possible unless Nibiru had also comprehended karma. That's right, the Mudwater Kingdom's absolute method was karma. Since it was related to karma, there must have been a powerhouse who comprehended karma in the Mudwater Kingdom. Could it be Biluo? Even if that wasn't the case, Biluo must have comprehended karma. Moreover, in that instant, not only did he sense Biluo's position, but he also had a strange feeling that he could determine the cause and effect. That's right, it was this feeling. It was only for an instant and it disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, he was certain that he could determine the cause and effect in that instant. This was the Mudwater Kingdom's absolute method. If he wasn't wrong, then the absolute method of the Mudwater Kingdom should have come from Biluo. Determining the cause and effect should have been Biluo's power that acted on the entire Mudwater Kingdom, allowing it to obtain the absolute method. If he wanted to verify this, then he just had to ask 8-Color Biluo if he had comprehended karma. If that was the case, then Luyin's eyes flickered. He had one more reason to kill Biluo. First, it was to avenge the Mountain Sword Sect's ancestor. Second, it was to search for the method of determining karma. Since there was the ability to determine karma, then there was also the ability to transfer it. Perhaps this was a direction that he could take after breaking through to the Eternal Realm and not be bound by karma. Of course, this was only a possibility and a very small one at that. There were countless civilizations within the square mile, and there were many eternal realms, but he had never heard of anyone who could truly ignore karma. Some civilizations were far more talented than humans, and if they couldn't do it, then it would be difficult for him to do it as well. However, it was still a direction that he could try. If he could even try teleportation, then this might not be impossible. He would wait until his Clayblade's karma had completely increased. Luyin took Master Grass and Heaven Bearer Immortality to the 9th Heaven Universe and greeted Azure Lotus Protector before heading to the Mirage Domain and waiting quietly. The heavenly way of karma continued to increase. Although a lot was consumed in the war, the increase was also great. If it was completely released at this moment, it would definitely be comparable to the Karma Celestial phenomenon. However, Luin also knew that the Karma Celestial phenomenon was not the limit of Azure Lotus Protector. He had been releasing the Karma Celestial phenomenon not only to protect the three universes, but also to counteract Red Hero's law when dealing with him. If Azure Lotus Protector completely released the Karma, the range that it covered would definitely not be smaller than the range that the clay blade could slash. When he arrived at the Mirage Domain, Luin immediately started healing. Beside the River of Time, Xiaoran was surprised. "Where did you get such a serious injury?" Luin smiled bitterly. "The war with the fishing civilization, but it's not a big deal. It looks serious, but it's not serious." Xiaoran looked at Lu Yin's neck and didn't say anything else. She rowed the boat and left. Luin sat by the River of Time for an unknown amount of time. The clay blade's increase in karma had long since ended. He also recovered from his injuries, and after bidding farewell to Xiaoran, he left the Mirage Domain and returned to the back mountain of Above Heaven. He took the clay blade out of the General Dientai Hell and looked at it calmly. "I want to know where the Mudwater Kingdom is." "You want to find an Ibiluo?" The clay blade's voice was getting weaker and weaker. Luin nodded. "Yes." The clay blade sneered. "You dare to find an Ibiluo?" "I didn't say now. Some gaps can't be made up with time. Otherwise, with the River of Time, you would have been invincible long ago." "Are you reminding me?" Luin raised a brow. The clay blade said, "I'm just making sure that you don't dare to find an Ibiluo. That's courting death. You should tell me. Whether or not I dare to find him, at least there's a chance that I can find him. Maybe he can avenge you." Luin slowly said without any threat. The clay blade knew that he would die and threats were useless. He was telling the truth and the clay blade would definitely tell him. The clay blade laughed mockingly. "I can't tell you. The Mudwater Kingdom isn't a fixed universe. It can move at any time." Luin frowned. "Not a universe? It used to be, but it's gone now. My Mudwater Kingdom is destined to wander. The more civilizations and immortals we find and collect, the stronger we become. What's the use of being fixed in one place?" Luin understood that this was a characteristic of the Mudwater Kingdom. "So, I can't find an Ibiluo?" The clay blade didn't answer. Luin asked again, "How did you start a full-scale war with the unknowns?" "What do you mean?" "In other words, is there a way to start a full-scale war with the unknowns?" "A full-scale war with the unknowns?" The clay blade couldn't understand Luin anymore. Why did this guy seem to be hostile to both the Mudwater Kingdom and the unknowns? Luin said, "Give me a way. In the future, I might also start a war with the unknowns. Similarly, the unknowns might avenge you." Clay blade was silent for a moment. "I don't know, but I heard from Ni Biluo that the unknowns have a position that they can't approach. Maybe we've already approached that position and my Mudwater Kingdom has appeared." Luin sighed. "You really don't know anything. The Mudwater Kingdom is Ni Biluo's kingdom. Although Ni Biluo is one of the 8 elders, he's not one of them. We all belong to Ni Biluo." "You've fought Red Hero before. How strong is he?" "I won't tell you. I know that human is your enemy. Otherwise he wouldn't have let me go. If it wasn't for him, your opponent would have been Ni Biluo and you wouldn't have ended up like this. Haha, that human might also avenge me." Luin looked at the clay blade. "My question is over. You should be buried with the Mountain Sword Sect's ancestor." The clay blade sneered. "Buried with him? Is he worthy? Dying at your hands is my sorrow. If time could turn back, I would have destroyed that Mountain Sword Sect and buried that civilization with me." Luin waved his hand and completely obliterated the clay blade. The clay blade was almost equivalent to a powerhouse with 2 laws. Among the enemies Luin had killed, he was the strongest existence. The battle was difficult, but he still managed to do it with various methods. What about Red Hero? How big was the difference in strength between Red Hero and the clay blade? Luin could use all kinds of methods to kill the clay blade, but he was very sure that he couldn't kill Red Hero. The pressure that Red Hero gave him was much greater than the clay blade. Unless he could completely control the triple divine power transformation and use Crow Bind and various other methods, it wasn't impossible to fight. The premise was that Red Hero's ruthless path couldn't be recovered. He would never forget the Red Hero's aura he felt at the 100-Fist Mountain. That monstrous pressure was Red Hero at his peak. Against Red Hero at that moment, all methods were useless. He found a place to lie in the hanging coffin and disappeared. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. As soon as Luin entered, he began to shout to 8 colors. I killed the clay blade 8 colors. Is there a reward? 8 colors voice sounded. 4 stars reward. Only 4 stars reward? Are you sure? That was the clay blade, not the other 8 elders. Luin was dissatisfied. 8 colors said, among the 8 elders except for Ni Beluo, all of them are 4 stars reward. Luin, you can choose your reward. I didn't expect that you could kill the clay blade. How did you do it? De Mao's voice was full of surprise. Lu Yin's mouth curved. It's simple. It's just a clay blade. If Ni Beluo didn't run fast, I could have killed it. Haha, little guy, you owe me a life. The old man laughed. Chapter 43:51. De Mao sneered, you think I didn't see it? You're like a rat against Mu Below, but no one can beat you if you can kill Mud Blade. Red Hero, are you scared? This little guy is going to kill you, haha. Lu Yin retorted, De Mao, don't say things that affect our unity. 8 colors, De Mao is trying to create conflict. Are you just going to watch? De Mao snorted, who doesn't know you're going against Red Hero? Mud Blade's opponent has always been Red Hero. Why did it turn against you? Red Hero, explain yourself. Orange has already explained this matter, but Unknown will be punished accordingly. 8 colors spoke up. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. 8 colors, there's no need for that. Maybe Red Hero was tricked. He's never been smart, so it's normal. The old guy laughed again. 8 colors, this little guy is expressing his dissatisfaction. 8 colors didn't respond. At this time Clear's voice sounded, Lu Yin, are you okay? I'm fine. Mud Blade is very strong and I'm not sure I can beat it. You're still the best, Clear said. Lu Yin rolled his eyes. There was no way he would believe that. He didn't know exactly how strong Che was, but he would rather believe that it was a lie. An ancient existence that participated in the war that destroyed the Ninth Fort civilization couldn't beat Mud Blade? The possibility was close to zero. Right, he remembered that when De Mao revealed that Clear was the mountain master of Mount Dongshu, Clear's aura had terrified him. That aura was not something Mud Blade could compare to. Actually, I'm curious, how did you beat Mud Blade? De Mao asked. The old guy laughed, I'm curious too. Little guy, do you want to tell me? Sure, let's find it. Let's find a place to gather. How about the Red Shirt civilization? Lu Yin asked casually. I agree. De Mao immediately agreed. Red Hero had betrayed his coordinates, and Lu Yin had found him several times. He had long harbored a grudge. If he could lure the old guy to the Red Shirt civilization and gather there, what would happen? Lu Yin only needed to know where he was, and it was always lively. He kept probing in his conversation with De Mao and the others, trying to get information from the unknowns. This time, De Mao's attitude towards him was not so bad. Obviously, his victory over Mud Blade made all the unknowns reevaluate his strength. Lan Meng had been instantly killed by a Mud Blade, but Lu Yin had been able to counterattack and kill a Mud Blade. Such strength was worthy of respect. Inside the orange hanging coffin, Red Hero listened quietly. This Lu Yin seemed to be pestering endlessly, but he could often elicit information that could be analyzed. He even mentioned Red Hero from time to time, which was really disgusting. It just so happened that this child's strength was so strong that even the Mud Blade was defeated. He had asked Ba-colored Mud Blade how it was defeated, but Ba-colored Mud Blade wouldn't tell him. He guessed that someone must have severely injured the Mud Blade before handing it over to Lu Yin, but that didn't seem right either. The Mud Blade wasn't stupid, and it would definitely be bound by karma when it encountered an expert. It was certain that the next opponent would be a scoundrel, so karma was meaningless. There shouldn't be any unknowns helping Lu Yin deal with it. Red Hero's gaze turned cold. Everyone knew that he had deliberately let Mud Blade go in order to kill Lu Yin. He had paid the price for that, but unfortunately he had failed. Lu Yin was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Especially as he listened, he felt an inexplicable sense of isolation. In the past, they didn't communicate with each other, all of them hiding themselves. Everyone was the same. But now, Lu Yin's actions had led the unknowns astray, making it seem like Cyan and Violet were on very good terms. It was the same for Clear. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed like they would end up together. Even though Cyan and Lu Yin were constantly cursing each other, the more it was like this, the easier it was for them to end up together. What if they joined forces to deal with him? How could this be? For the first time he felt unfamiliar with the unknowns. It was all because of Lu Yin. If he hadn't betrayed Jiolei, then this person's ancestor wouldn't have survived, and there wouldn't have been the current inheritance. If only he had betrayed Jiolei a little later. He couldn't wait to kill his way to the 3 universes. If Lu Yin had the time, he would rather stay in Jizong and chat for 10 days to half a month, but Demao and the others didn't have the time to accompany him, and they soon stopped talking. Lu Yin called out a few times but no one answered. He could only ask Ba-Colored about the Mudwater Kingdom. The Mudwater Kingdom is Ni Biluo's kingdom. I'm using your human language to explain. Lu Yin understood, so killing anyone other than Ni Biluo was a 4 stars reward. He was curious. Ni Biluo is very strong, right? Very strong. What's his ranking among the unknowns? No comment. Haha, that old guy can actually block Ni Biluo. He's really strong. Very strong. But Demao feels a little weaker than them. What about Red Hero? How does Red Hero compare to them? Very strong. Lu Yin felt that something was wrong and asked, Ba-Colored, what do you think of Mudblade's strength? Very strong. Lu Yin was speechless. Has Ni Biluo comprehended karma? Ba-Colored was surprised. How do you know? Do you know? Lu Yin said, don't forget I've also comprehended karma. I can feel it. Ba-Colored said, that's right, Ni Barrow has indeed comprehended karma. Mudwater Nation's absolute method comes from Ni Barrow, and its use of karma is different from yours. It lacks the ability to kill and it rarely makes deductions. Instead, it works on the entire civilization, allowing Mudwater Nation to leap from an ordinary civilization to a fishing civilization, becoming a hooligan. If it wasn't for this method, Mudwater Nation wouldn't have been qualified to fight with us. If that's the case, why didn't you tell me this information? Ni Biluo doesn't have any methods other than karma. You know about karma, so there's no need to tell me. How do you know it's not hidden? Ni Biluo's opponent is not you. Lu Yin did not harp on this point, saying that Ba-Colored had a way to explain everything. He thought of the 7 treasures heavenly toad. Patriarch Shan was so strong that he definitely surpassed Ni Biluo, but the 7 treasures heavenly toad was not a fishing civilization. In the end, Patriarch Shan's strength came from him alone, while a fishing civilization's strength came from the entirety. If not for the absolute method of karma, Mudwater Kingdom would be very similar to the 7 treasures heavenly toad. What would happen if Mudwater Kingdom and the 7 treasures heavenly toad fought? Lu Yin recalled how terrifying Patriarch Shan had been. Perhaps the Black Enlightenment civilization's fate would be the same as Mudwater Kingdom's. Even if Patriarch Shan's karmic bindings were perfect, he would still be able to destroy the entire Mudwater Kingdom. Mudwater Kingdom's method of karma would not be able to threaten Patriarch Shan either. Patriarch Shan would have slaughtered all those eternal life forms, so the karmic bindings would definitely be his. Unfortunately, no matter how strong he was, it was equivalent to perishing together. Elder Shan, even someone as powerful as Patriarch Shan, did not dare to break into knowing whereabouts. There were too many unknowns. Before this battle, Lu Yin and Red Hero had gotten into a heated argument, and he had even dragged Demao and the others into it. Now, with the Millennium Guardian, he and Red Hero could not cause trouble for each other. This was probably Ba-Colored's goal. Lu Yin, the red, silver, and blue threads are with you. When will you return them? Ba-Colored asked. Lu Yin pursed his lips. Don't worry, I'll definitely return them to you. Return them to an unknown. Understood. When will you worship the divine tree? I said don't worry, I'll go. Where did the ability to immobilize the mud blade come from? Immobilization? Lu Yin subconsciously replied. Suddenly his gaze changed. Ba-Colored, you're tricking me. Ba-Colored calmly said, I know it came from the 10-eyed crow. I recognized it the first time I saw it, but I didn't expect you to obtain its ability. Congratulations. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. The unknowns will not investigate every unknown. Ba-Colored, you've crossed the line. You didn't answer, Ba-Colored said. Lu Yin took a deep breath. He had been too careless, as the 8 colors had always stayed out of his affairs. Even when he and Red Hero had fallen out, the 8 colors had not interfered. In fact, the 8 colors had even secretly helped him, which had made him less wary of them. Ba-Colored was also a member of the unknowns, and it might even be the ruler of the unknowns. It was one of the greatest enemies of human civilization. Lu Yin silently left knowing whereabouts. He pushed open the hanging coffin and looked at the stars. Ba-Colored was curious about the origin of the immobilization, which meant that it did not know where the 10-eyed crow was. Red Hero knew, but Ba-Colored did not. Was it hiding something? Although the 10-eyed crow was huge, it was still insignificant. However, it was pitifully small. The unknown was very strong, but it was also impossible for it to explore every inch of space. Ba-Colored cared about the 10-eyed crow, and this was the first time it had risked breaking the rules to test it. Could Lu Yin use the 10-eyed crow to do something? Lu Yin thought about it and then rejected the idea. Since the ten-eyed crow was so important to Ba-colored, it must be very important. Unless the ten-eyed crow was useless to him, he could not let the unknowns touch it. In the past, it had taken 3 base masters to kill the ten-eyed crow, and it was extremely powerful, far surpassing the likes of Nibiluo. If he had the time, he would try to see if he could obtain any more abilities. For now, he would go to the Mother Forest. He had helped De Mao deal with his opponent on the battlefield, and aside from the 4 stars mission reward, he had also received an additional Mother Forest from De Mao. After teleporting several times, Lu Yin finally found the Mother Forest. Looking at the Mother Tree Forest, there weren't many of them, but they were extremely magnificent. Every mother tree was enough to support a universe. These mother trees could not survive after being uprooted. Lu Yin looked around and confirmed that De Mao was not around. He then placed a hand on the mother trees. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The mother trees began to wither and turn to dust. Green dots of light entered the space around Lu Yin's heart, and as the mother trees disappeared one by one, the number of green dots in the space around Lu Yin's heart increased. However, it was still not enough for him, far from enough. However, these green dots of light gave him the confidence to face the ten-eyed crow again. He just did not know what abilities the ten-eyed crow's remaining eyes had. He was still rather anxious. After all, Ba-colored knew about the ten-eyed crow's existence, and it would definitely think of ways to find it. He could not go there now to prevent himself from being targeted by the unknowns. He would have to wait a little longer. Next, he received another set of coordinates from Clear. Clear wanted to give him the 5th stronghold's remnant. Chapter 4352. Lu Yin naturally didn't trust Clear, so he returned to the 3 universes as if he had participated in the unknown battlefield. He met Master Qingqiao again. Master Qingqiao looked at Lu Yin in a daze. What's wrong? Accompany me to another place. It's time to change. Senior is the most suitable. Master Qingqiao had framed me Jin Xiangyu, but his original intention was to protect the spiritualized universe. Nothing could protect the spiritualized universe more than himself. Sometimes, the life-saving rope didn't have to be entrusted to someone he trusted. It could also be entrusted to someone with benefits. Benefits were often more reliable than promises. Master Qingqiao was helpless. Can I not go? I also want to cultivate. There are still many juniors in the spiritualized universe waiting to be taught. Senior, please. Lu Yin took out Mount Supreme. Master Qingqiao shook his head bitterly and entered. After reaching the Eternal Realm, he had never seen someone like Lu Yin who forced others to do things against their will. Which Eternal Realm powerhouse didn't have the demeanor of an expert? This kid had cultivated for a very short time and did things without elegance. Next was Heaven carrying immortality. Needless to say, he went in directly. There was no room for refusal. Lu Yin thought about it, but it was still not enough. Right, Yu, this woman came to the 3 universes. She can't do nothing, right? Thinking of this, Lu Yin found Yu and asked her to follow him to a place. Yu refused. No. Lu Yin took out Mount Supreme. Go in by yourself. Don't force me to do it. Yu was furious. You have no right to restrict my freedom. Wrong, I'll take you to square inch. It's precisely to give you freedom. I told you. I'm not going. Lu Yin raised his hand and grabbed Yu. Yu had never really fought with Lu Yin. However, under the stars, Red Coat saw Lu Yin suppress the parallel order and escape from Red Hero's eyes. She knew that she was no match for him. But even so, she had to protect her dignity. Not long after, in Mount Supreme, Yu was furious. She looked up and wanted to curse, but she was also filled with powerlessness. Too powerless. He was clearly a scoundrel. How could he be so strong? He was terrifyingly strong. With 3 eternal realms, it should be safe. Even if Clear took the risk of breaking the unknown rules to deal with him, the karma restrictions brought by 3 eternal realms were enough to make it suffer. He teleported again and again. The coordinates given by Clear were relatively far away. It took dozens of teleportations before he arrived. Lu Yin looked at the enormous city in front of him. Is this Dongshu Mountain? De Mao had said before that Clear was the mountain master of Mount Dongshu. However, it was clearly just a city in front of him. At this moment, the void distorted and a figure walked out. Lu Yin looked at the newcomer as memories surfaced in his mind. The universe of consciousness. The first time he met Clear, he was enlightened by Clear. Clear was the 2nd Eternal Realm expert he had encountered. At that time, he did not know that the gap between Eternal Realm experts could be so big. If Grandmaster Qingqiao fought with Che, he would be destroyed with a wave of his hand. Che beamed as he looked at Lu Yin. His black and white robes set off his temperament that was neither good nor evil. He nodded at Luin. "You've come. Long time no see, Luin." Luin looked at Che. "It's really been a long time. The last time we met was in the consciousness universe and it's been over 1,000 years. Che said, "That's right. 1,000 years is a long time to you, but to me it's just a blink of an eye. I want to thank you for giving xuanhuan the power to protect itself. It used this power to protect my universe." Xuanhuan. Luin drew xuanhuan's appearance in the void. Che saw it and smiled. "So it's him. A very polite little guy, humble and honest. I quite like him." Xuanhuan humble? Honest? Luin felt strange, but after thinking about it, it made sense. Who would dare to not be humble and honest in front of you? "What are you going to give me?" Luin asked. Che pointed at the huge city in front of them. "That's it, Xiang City?" Lu Yin's pupils shrank as he looked in front of him in shock. "Xiang City? Looks like you know." Che smiled. Luin stared at Che in a daze. Xiang City, Lan Meng had told him that the Ninth Fort civilization had 9 great turbid treasures. Among them, the turbid treasure of the 5th fort was called Xiang City. He would never have thought that the city in front of him was actually Xiang City, and that Che was going to give him Xiang City. He looked at Che in disbelief. Che looked at him calmly. "This is the turbid treasure of the 5th fort. Now it's yours." Luin stared at Che. "What do you mean?" Che clasped his hands behind his back and smiled, but this smile was somewhat bitter. "There are some things that need to be fixed. You don't need to ask. Besides, Xiang City doesn't belong to me in the first place. It belongs to your human civilization. All living things have their own destiny to survive. From birth to death, what should be obtained will be obtained, and what cannot be obtained will never be obtained. To tell you the truth, no one can ignore a turbid treasure. Since you know about Xiang City, you should know how powerful it is. I also wish to control it, but unfortunately I've been unable to do so for many years, so I can only give up." He then looked at Luin. "I hope that it can shine in your hands and restore the former glory of the 5th fort." Luin stared at Che and suddenly had a guess. "You can't be a human, right?" He had always thought that Che was not human. When Che had first entered the 3 universes and greeted Qinglianyu had also told Luin that Che was not human and that he had changed his appearance. Now that he knew that Qinglianyu had hidden this from the Red Coat civilization, Luin guessed that Che might have also hidden his past from Qinglianyu. Che smiled and said, "You're overthinking things. I'm not a human, and I'm not like Red Hero who betrayed your human civilization. I haven't interacted much with your civilization since the beginning. As for the 5th fort, it's a battlefield that I once participated in." "Then what are you trying to fix?" "Fixing doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Right and wrong only exist between the same species. I'm different from your human civilization. I'm just following my heart and trying to make up for it." Luin looked deeply at Che and did not know if he was telling the truth. He then turned to look at the city in front of him. If this city was really a turbid treasure, then its value would be too great. What was he thinking? Why would he give away a turbid treasure just like that? The 5th stronghold is also known as the world of mental techniques. This stronghold is very unique, and its mental techniques are also extremely powerful. Your human civilization's 9 defense bases each have their own legacies and strengths, but what I admire the most is the mental techniques of the 5th stronghold. Mental techniques, when skills are developed, the world is born from the heart, and the heart can accommodate everything. And this Xiang City is known as the strongest defensive turbid treasure. If you can control Xiang City and use it to protect your human civilization, even if you don't know the answer, it's unlikely that you'll be able to break it. Lu Yin's eyes burned. The strongest defensive turbid treasure in his knowledge? Its defenses are that strong? How did the 9th base lose? The 9th base lost because of a traitor, not because of itself. Red Hero? Maybe there's more than one Red Hero. The human heart is unpredictable. Luin suppressed his excitement. "You mentioned mental techniques. What's that?" Che looked at Xiang City. "I can't explain it. You'll have to see for yourself and experience it for yourself. I can only tell you that the 5th fort's motto is, develop your skills. Build on the past and forge ahead. Skills refer to mental techniques. Learn from the predecessors and create something unprecedented in the past. This is the 5th fort's motto, develop your skills. If you can inherit the power of the 5th fort's mental techniques, your strength will definitely rise to a whole new level. It might even help you break through to immortality." Lu Yin's eyes burned, but he did not let his excitement overwhelm his rationality. No matter how nice Che made it sound, the premise was that Xiang City was really the turbid treasure of the 5th fort. From now on, Xiang City belongs to you. Whether or not you control it in the end, it has nothing to do with me, Che said. He looked at Xiang City with a bitter smile on his face. He had been guarding Xiang City for far too long. Luin asked, "How do I control Xiang City?" Che looked at Xiang City with a complicated expression. All living things in the world have their own appearances. However, there are two sides to each other. One side is on the surface while the other is inside. The appearance on the surface creates a lie, so what you see might not be the truth. However, the inner appearance is the most real and cannot be deceived with lies. That is your most essential side. Once you enter Xiang City, you can transform into your most essential side. As for how to control Xiang City, I don't know. You don't know? If I did, I might have already controlled Xiang City. Luin nodded. That was right. If he controlled Xiang City, how could he return it to him? No one would ignore a turbid treasure. Che himself had said that he had tried for many years to no avail. Otherwise he would not have kept it until now. How do I get in? How do I get out? Stick close to the door and leave. Over the years, many creatures have entered and almost all of them came out. There is no need to worry about safety. Of course, it is not absolutely safe. Some creatures never come out again. In Xiang City, all cultivation is suppressed, including those at the Eternal Realm. Whether you can leave alive depends on luck. Even those at the Eternal Realm have their cultivation suppressed? Luin was shocked. Che said, "If not, how could it become the strongest defensive treasure?" At the end of the 9th fort, Xiang City protected the 9th fort and blocked all the powerful enemies in the universe. That glorious scene is not something you can imagine. Although the marks on the walls are faint, to be able to leave such marks on Xiang City's walls means that they are at least compatible with the laws of the universe and have broken through to the Eternal Realm. Luin looked at the walls and saw many marks. Were they all left behind by someone as strong as Mr. Mu? Blocking all the powerful enemies alone? That was ridiculous. Do the unknowns know that Xiang City is here? Luin suddenly asked. Che smiled and said, "Don't worry. Even if they know, they won't steal it. The unknowns won't steal anything that belongs to the unknowns." Che stayed in the 9th stronghold for so long just to get the turbid treasure. The turbid treasure is indeed there, and the unknowns know about it. But because the rules cannot be broken, Che can only take it himself unless he succeeds or fails the mission. In this regard, the unknowns will never cross the line. Luin laughed. They really follow the rules. Che finally said, "I'll leave Xiang City to you. From now on, it has nothing to do with me. Luin, I hope you can really control Xiang City. Let me see if your human civilization can restore the glory of the 9th fort in this era. I'm looking forward to it." With that he left. Luin looked at Che's departing figure. Looking forward to it? Chapter 43-53. He teleported closer to Xiang City. Xiang City was a colossus, but it was much smaller than a universe. It was difficult for civilizations to find each other's universes. It was even more difficult to find this city. However, many civilizations or creatures must have found Xiang City over the years, but what happened? Che did not say, and he forgot to ask. It must have been similar to the creatures Che had thrown in. Xiang City had a gate, but it was closed. Luin walked around Xiang City. He could not find any other entrances. He could only go through that gate. He entered and exited by sticking close to the gate. To be safe, it was better not to go in alone. He should let others go in first. Thinking of this, he released the Grass Masters, Eternity Bearer and Bayou. He glanced at them and finally looked at Bayou. "Please enter the city and take a look." Bayou and the others looked at Xiang City in confusion. Eternity Bearer subconsciously took a few steps back, feeling that something was wrong. Bayou looked at the city and then looked at Luin. Then he looked at Luin. "Where is this place?" Luin smiled at her. "I don't know, so I'll have to trouble you to go in and take a look." No matter how strong she was, Bayou had lived for much longer than Luin, so it was understandable that she called him senior. Bayou refused. "I'm not going." She was not stupid. Luin did not want to go in himself, but he wanted her to. It was obvious that she was there to scout. Luin frowned. "Senior, you seem to be resistant to my words. This is not good." Bayou stared at Luin. "I'm one of the eternal realms of the human civilization. I'm not going to die if I go to the 3 universes with you. For the human civilization, I'll do anything without hesitation. This is my promise, but I can't scout for you." Luin met Bayou's eyes and looked deeply at her. He asked slowly, "How is he, Xiao?" Bayou trembled and looked at Luin. "What do you mean?" Luin said, "I took you away from the Red Coat universe and got rid of Red Hero. That's one thing. Secondly, I crippled He Xiao. You've taken revenge, right? I don't ask how He Xiao is now, but have you taken revenge? Ba Yu was silent. Okay, I can reject you this time. I hope you won't reject me next time. After he finished speaking, he looked past Ba Yu. Lu Yin looked at Eternity Bearer. Please enter. The heaven-carrying immortal life bearer was annoyed. I'm not going. Lu Yin frowned. There are more and more eternal life realms in the 3 universes. 1 or 2 less won't make much of a difference. Heaven-carrying immortality said bitterly, no matter what, I have helped you before. Then I'll help you again. Lu Yin was callous, but that did not mean that he was heartless. This was simply the way to survive. The eternal heaven-bearer had also abandoned his own tricolored skybearer race to hide in the human civilization in order to survive. Since he had chosen to hide here, then he had to pay the price. Just spitting out colored glass was far from enough. Finally, under Lu Yin's gaze, heaven-bearing immortality approached Xiang City's main gates and disappeared. After it entered, Master Greengrass asked, "What exactly is this place?" Ba Yu looked at him as well. Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back. The 5th Wall Fortress's turbid treasure, Xiang City. The two of them were shocked. Turbid treasure? Xiang City? Lu Yin looked at Ba Yu. It seems like you know about Xiang City. Master Greengrass was shocked by the turbid treasure, but Ba Yu was shocked by the name of Xiang City. Ba Yu stared at the city in a daze. I heard Jihe mention it by chance. He said that if the 5th Wall Xiang City was still around, there would be no need to fear all the civilizations in space. That's the strongest defensive turbid treasure. I didn't expect it to be here. Had Jihe mentioned it before? Lu Yin's eyes lit up. It seemed like the legend of Xiang City was true. However, he did not know if this was the real Xiang City. Master Greengrass headed towards Xiang City. Senior, what are you planning to do? Since it's the turbid treasure of humanity, it's only right for us humans to lead the way, Master Greengrass said. Lu Yin praised, Senior, you're becoming more and more magnanimous. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's real or not. Master Greengrass approached the door with his back facing Lu Yin. I know that if it's real, you won't let that snail lead the way. You can still take responsibility for that. However, you can't really let a snail lead the way for humanity. Your life is very important to human civilization, but I'm different. After saying that, he placed his hand on the door, stuck close to it, and disappeared. Master Greengrass had always been an unpredictable person. If one said that he was a traitor, he would sacrifice everything for the sake of spiritualizing the universe. If one said that he was not a traitor, he would cause the death of Mijin Xiangyu. Everyone knew the reason, but they still could not forgive him. Master Greengrass did not need anyone's forgiveness. He walked his own path, and his path had always been firm. Regardless of whether it was right or wrong, regardless of the outcome, he would walk his own path firmly. This was also why Lu Yin had brought him out without worry. Lu Yin knew that Master Greengrass would definitely not want anything to happen to him. As long as he was around, the 3 universes would be safe. For this, Lu Yin was willing to give up everything. Lu Yin closed his eyes and waited quietly. Beside him, Ba Yu looked at him and then at Xiang City. She also waited quietly. Although Lu Yin's eyes were closed, he had opened his celestial eye. After the celestial eye had absorbed the 10-eyed divine crow's ability, he could see anyone who was looking at him. He was testing to see if Clear was watching him. Clear seemed to have really left. Lu Yin stood outside Xiang City for a few months, and aside from Ba Yu, no one else was looking at him. Not long after, Master Greengrass walked out, which attracted Lu Yin and Ba Yu's attention. Master Greengrass had left Xiang City with a strange expression on his face. He seemed to be reminiscing about something, but he also seemed to have encountered something inconceivable. Senior, how was it? Lu Yin asked. Master Greengrass looked at him and did not speak for a while. Coincidentally, Eternal Life Bearer walked out and sighed heavily. I finally escaped. I almost didn't make it out. That scared me to death. Those kids were really annoying. Lu Yin was curious. What happened? Eternal Life Bearer glanced at Master Greengrass, as he did not know that Master Greengrass had gone in. When he saw Lu Yin, Ba Yu and Master Greengrass all looking at him, he bitterly said, I went in and my cultivation was gone. I even turned into a little snail. A little snail? Ba Yu blinked in surprise. Lu Yin sized up Eternal Life Bearer. You turned from a snail into a snail? Eternal Life Bearer replied, It's a little snail, the very small kind. It's only the size of a human's fingernail. When I turned into a little snail, I stuck to the wall as soon as I entered. A few kids saw me and threw rocks at me. If I hadn't been lucky enough to be right next to the city gate, I would have been crushed to death after spending so much time climbing out from the top of the wall and sticking to the gate. It's too dangerous. I'm sure that I'll really die if I get crushed to death. Mr. Lu, this place is too dangerous. You can't enter. This is a trap. Lu Yin and Ba Yu looked at Master Greengrass. Master Greengrass slowly said, I turned into a black tortoise. Ba Yu was confused. A black tortoise? Lu Yin was stunned, but then he remembered. A black tortoise? A tortoise? A black tortoise, Master Greengrass emphasized. Lu Yin understood. A tortoise. A black tortoise was the name given to a divine beast on Earth. Master Greengrass had always stayed in the Xuanhuan universe, so it was normal for him to have visited Earth. After all, Lu Yin had stayed there before. Using a black tortoise to describe a tortoise sounded much better than calling himself a tortoise. Fine, a black tortoise it was. However, was a tortoise part of Master Greengrass's nature? Master Greengrass had always wanted to protect the spiritualized universe, which was in line with the characteristics of a tortoise. He retracted his head inside and did not care about anything. You weren't crushed? Lu Yin asked. Master Greengrass glanced at the eternal bearer. No. The people there respect crows and black tortoises, and they allowed me to climb to the city gate. That's all? That's all. What about your comprehension? What about your understanding of this city? No. There are humans in the city, but there are no cultivators. It's just a city of ordinary people. Our cultivation would have been completely destroyed if we had been killed by the people there. Lu Yin looked at the eternal bearer. The eternal bearer shook his head as well. There was nothing. One of them had turned into a snail and almost been crushed to death, while the other had turned into a tortoise. Lu Yin finally understood why Clear had not been able to control Xiang City for so many years. He might have been confused and could not understand the city at all, or he might not have been able to do so even if he did. The greatest danger of Xiang City was the humans there. If the snail and tortoise were crushed to death, then the eternal bearer and Master Greengrass would really die. Thinking about it, it was really child's play. How could an eternal realm cultivator die so easily? This was Xiang City's guardian treasure, a turbid treasure. Even an unknown powerhouse like Clear had acknowledged it as the strongest defensive turbid treasure. It really was something. Then what would happen to Lu Yin when it was his turn? He wouldn't die, right? Lu Yin was a little apprehensive. He raised his hand and approached the gate. Behind him, Ba Yu saw this scene and hesitated for a moment before approaching the gate as well. An eternal realm cultivator would not be scared away by a city, and she still dared to give it a try. She did not believe that the eternal bearer had said that being crushed to death would really mean death. How could an eternal realm cultivator die so easily? If she could control this turbid treasure, her status would definitely soar, and she would not be casually captured by Lu Yin. When she thought about this, her gaze became much more resolute. She touched the gate and entered. Lu Yin entered at the same time. A black brilliance flashed around him, and it was as if time was flowing. When he opened his eyes again, he saw a tall building. A shadow loomed over him and he looked up in shock. Foot. A giant foot was stomping down, and the soles of his feet were stained with dirt. Not good. It was not that the building was tall, but that he was too small. He hurriedly dodged, narrowly avoiding being trampled by the foot. He looked up again and saw pedestrians walking past. This was a very lively street, and the sounds of hawkers shouting their wares rose and fell. There were shops on both sides of the street, and the closest building to him was a restaurant with many people going in and out. From time to time he could smell the aroma of delicious food. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like an ordinary mortal city. As for Lu Yin himself, he had turned into an ant. An ant. Was this his own internal aspect? Was this his own essence? Lu Yin looked at his body. Ants were fast and strong. Although they were small, they could carry objects that far exceeded their own weight. They were especially adept at working together, and when countless ants worked together, they could devour everything. It really was very similar to him. Dust covered his face as pedestrians hurriedly walked past him. The dust under his feet covered the sky, and he hurriedly hid in a corner. Suddenly he felt a sense of horror. He looked around and saw a child walking over with a water bottle. Not good. He knew what the child wanted to do, and he hurriedly fled through the cracks in the tiles. Chapter 4354. The child carried a kettle over and squatted down to look for the ant, but he couldn't find it. His mother called out from behind him, and he acknowledged her before pouring the kettle over. The boiling water flowed through the cracks in the floor, but to Lu Yin, it was like a torrential flood that was scalding hot. He frantically crawled out of the cracks and towards the protruding floorboards. Soon he was surrounded by boiling water and he could only stand on the highest point of a tile. He had to wait for the water to cool down before he could swim away. This was the fate of an ant. Even if he had the ability and courage to carry 1,000 kilograms, the difference between him and a child was too great to make up for. It was just like the difference between Luin and the unknown. It seemed like he had the strength to fight against someone who had 2 laws, but the unknown was far more powerful than that. Where was this? A corner of Xiang City? If he wanted to leave, he had to touch the city gates. However, he didn't know how to take control of Xiang City. At the very least, an ant couldn't do it. But if an ant couldn't do it, then what could he do? Luin looked around. Aside from himself, there were definitely other creatures that had entered Xiang City, but they couldn't leave. Snails, turtles. Were they all living creatures? Countless huge droplets of water fell down. Pedestrians stepped on the boiling water and walked away while cursing. But Luin was drenched in water. Where did these people come from? Had they always lived in Xiang City? Or was it a constant cycle like the monolith world? He listened to the noise, and this wasn't the first time he'd seen the streets from this perspective. When he'd gone to the frigid immortal sect to participate in the Sky Beyond Heaven trial, he'd become a grasshopper jumping on the streets and died many times. He'd experienced the commotion from the perspective of a grasshopper, and he'd experienced being trampled to death time and time again. However, he'd faced the same person at that time, the frigid immortal sect's ancestor, Bai Wangyuan. Bai Wangyuan had used the Sky Beyond Heaven trial to imprint his invincibility onto the cultivators who'd taken the final step. Anyone who could reach that step was no ordinary person, and Bai Wangyuan wanted them to feel fear. He wanted them to be trampled to death time and time again until they all bowed their heads before him. Luin had relied on the primogenitor's scripture to break through that situation. This time it was different, as this was a manifestation of Xiang City's inner thoughts. It wasn't to intimidate them, but rather to allow them to see themselves clearly. Luin didn't know anything else. However, the fact that Xiang City was able to do this was truly terrifying. It was equivalent to crippling the cultivation of an expert who was compatible with 2 universal laws. This was the true power of a suppressing artifact turbid treasure. If he was trampled to death, would he really die here? Luin wasn't sure, as Che's words might not be true. The heaven-bearing immortality's cultivation was too weak, and it couldn't represent him, but Luin didn't want to test it out. Finally, the boiling water cooled down and he quickly swam over. Following the cracks in the ground, he walked to the center of the street and looked into the distance, searching for the city gate. He couldn't see it. A city was already huge for a human, let alone an ant. Even if he couldn't find it, he could still listen. Thinking of this, he moved closer to the peddler and waited quietly. When the peddler and the pedestrians talked, they would definitely mention the city gate. And so, Luin waited quietly in the cracks in the ground next to the peddler. Day after day passed, and Luin didn't know how much time had passed. On one particular day, the sun was setting, and the shadows on the ground were twisting. Luin glanced at them and assumed that they were just leaves being blown by the wind, so he didn't pay them much attention. However, the twisting of the shadows became more frequent and even more enchanting. He turned around and looked at the wall. The twisting shadow came from a green leaf, and when Luin looked over, the leaf twisted even more exaggeratedly, as if it had gone crazy. This was definitely a living creature. But how could a living creature turn into a leaf? This was horrifying. If that was the case, then the next time he entered, he would become a leaf and be stuck in one place. How would he leave? Lu Yin's first thought was that this might be a trap set up by Che. The leaf twisted crazily, almost tearing itself apart as it greeted Luin. Luin hesitated for a moment, but then he climbed up the wall until he wasn't too far away from the leaf. It's an outsider, right? An outsider? That's right. I knew it. This is great. Please help me leave this place. I'm stuck here and I don't know what's wrong with that creature, but it stuck a piece of bamboo into my body and I can't move. You could move before? Yes. Aren't you a leaf? Even if you can move, it's probably because of the wind. No, I can move on my own. Although I'm a leaf, I can still move. Looks like you're new here. Let me tell you, I've seen chairs move on their own before, and those creatures were so scared that they ran away. They said that it was haunted, but in the end, the chair was burned. What a pity. Luin understood. It seemed that one could move no matter what they turned into in Xiang City. Xiang City wasn't a land of death, and there was always a chance of survival, even if they were turned into chairs. Wait, what could turn into a chair? Whose inner form was a chair? Hurry up and save me. I've been trapped here for too long. Although time passes in this strange place, my state of self remains unchanged. I'm not hungry or thirsty, and I don't feel any of the signs of decay that I've felt before. What's up with these people? People? You mean these creatures? How do you know they're people? Do you know them? I'm the one asking you. Be honest if you want to leave. Okay. I understand. You're asking about these people, right? What's wrong with them? Have they ever changed? What do you mean? Grow old or die? Yes. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've become this peddler's family heirloom. It was his grandfather's grandfather's grandfather who fixed me here. This place looked like a normal world, so these people should all be real. How did you get in? Luin asked. What's wrong with you? You're right. I don't know. I turned into a leaf when I woke up. Was it Che who brought you in? Or did you find this city on your own? I really don't know. I beg you, please save me. Even if you have to let me go, I don't want to be fixed here anymore. Actually, I'm envious of that chair. If I'd known earlier, I would have been burned instead of staying here forever. Are there any other creatures here besides you? Many, but ever since I was fixed here, I couldn't see you anymore. The only reason I could recognize you was because an ant couldn't stay still for such a long time. It's not normal, so I guess that you must be a transformation of some creature. Luin looked at the leaf. Another creature? Looks like you know more than one type of creature. Yes, we've even talked about it before, but I haven't seen anyone since I was fixed here, the leaf said sadly. Leaf had talked about many creatures, but he probably hadn't met any humans. Otherwise he would have known about them. Or rather, he hadn't met any creatures that knew about human civilization. Che had said that he'd thrown many creatures here to test things out. Perhaps Leaf's civilization was one of them. To Che it was just a test, but to Leaf, it was an eternal torture. Luin wouldn't forget that Che was an existence that had wiped out many civilizations in the universe. Although he was polite and had even said that he would return Xiang City, that didn't mean that he was benevolent. There were no creatures in the universe that were absolutely benevolent. Luin suddenly thought of Tianke's master, an existence that yearned for truth, kindness, and beauty. Could it be benevolent? Luin stopped thinking about it and didn't rush to save Leaf. He could still hear the merchant's conversation, so he waited for the right direction. By the way, do you know where the city gate is? Seems like it. That's enough, Luin interrupted. Seems like it? That wouldn't do. He had to travel so far to find the city gate as an ant, and if he found the wrong one he would have to cross the city. He didn't know how many dangers he would encounter and how much time he would waste. It was better to listen. He didn't stay idle during this time and started gnawing on the bamboo. Leaf had told him many things, but he couldn't take Leaf with him. An ant carrying a leaf was too big of a target, so he just let it drift away with the wind. Bamboo wasn't easy to gnaw on, and Luin only managed to gnaw half of it after 10 days. He continued. A few more days passed, and on this particular night, many people were running around as if chasing something. Luin watched as a slipper jumped wildly on the street and fell into deep thought for a long time. We definitely can't run away, we'll be burned again, Leaf said. Luin realized that Xiang City was too terrifying. There were even creatures that could turn into slippers. What kind of personality was this? What kind of creature was this? He actually started to panic. Crack. The bamboo snapped and fell to the ground. Leaf broke free of the bamboo in midair, and a gust of wind blew it into the distance. It was overjoyed. Thank you, thank you. Luin watched as Leaf was swept into the sky by the wind. He didn't know what its fate would be, so he decided to continue waiting. Another half a month later, Luin heard the answer he wanted. The city gate was to the right and it was at the end of the street. He ran along the cracks in the walls for more than 10 days before finally seeing the city gate. He continued. Lu Yin's figure appeared outside Xiang City, and he was greeted by the curious gazes of Master Grass and Eternity Bearer. How was it? Even Master Grass was curious as to what Lu Yin had become. Lu Yin answered calmly, Titan. Master Grass? It's an ant. Master Grass was speechless. Who would have thought of this? But since it was an ant, it made sense. It's better than my snail, Eternity Bearer said. Luin glanced at it. This fellow was lucky that it hadn't been trampled to death, but Luin had nearly been trampled to death. Compared to a snail, an ant's survival ability was much stronger. It was a smaller target and could run faster. We'll just have to wait for Bayou next, Master Grass said. Luin asked how much time had passed and found that time in Xiang City flowed at the same rate as in the outside world. He didn't know what Bayou had become. Time passed day by day and soon 2 years had passed. Bayou still hadn't come out. She couldn't have died, right? Lu Yin had brought Master Grass and Eternity Bearer back to the three universes a year ago. Only the heavens knew how long Bai Yu would be trapped inside, but Leaf had been trapped for a very, very long time. Several generations of people had died, so it had to be at least a few hundred years. He hadn't asked the average lifespan of the people in Xiang City, but even if it was 100 years, it would still be a few hundred years. Chapter 4355. After returning to the three universes, Lu Yin told Qinglian Xiangyu and the others about Xiang City, but no one could verify anything. The only ones who knew were Red Hero and the others, but how could Lu Yin ask Red Hero? Right. There were also unknown rewards. Lu Yin had specifically asked 8 colors about Xiang City, but he didn't know anything about it. Lu Yin could only figure it out himself. Qinglian Xiangyu and the others wanted to enter Xiang City, but Lu Yin couldn't stop them. He didn't want anything to happen to them inside. If humans didn't even dare to try it themselves, how could they control it? Lu Yin didn't have any selfish intentions of controlling Xiang City. If Qinglian Xiangyu and the others could control it, it would be beneficial for humanity. But entering Xiang City was also dangerous. It's okay. You can save us after you control Xiang City. Don't worry, we're not going in together. We'll do it one by one, Qinglian Xiangyu said. Lu Yin could only agree and take them into Xiang City one by one. Qinglian Xiangyu didn't come out until half a year later. Qinglian Xiangyu didn't come out, not because he was afraid, but because human civilization couldn't afford to lose him. Even though the possibility wasn't high. In fact, it was often unfair to Qinglian Xiangyu. Whether it was going to the core or entering Xiang City, Qinglian Xiangyu couldn't do either. The only thing he could do was guard the three universes. As an eternal realm, he was deprived of his freedom. Master Ku Deng and Jiang Feng went in. Mr. Mu didn't go in. He already had control of the 9 strongholds treasure. Lu Yin was glad that Master Ku Deng was here. Jiang Feng and the others came out. Especially Jiang Feng, who had turned into an ant. With Lu Yin as an example, he had a smooth time and quickly found the city gate. Lu Yin and Jiang Feng were actually very similar. As for what Qinglian Xiangyu and Qinglian Xiangyu had turned into, they didn't say. Lu Yin asked, but they didn't say anything. Lu Yin suddenly thought of that slipper. Master Ku Deng had turned into a candle. Should it be considered an accident? It wasn't. The world he couldn't see was the mind lamp, but candles were easily exposed. No candle could burn for an entire night, so Master Ku Deng ran away after the candle went out at night. He rushed to the city gate in the middle of the night. Fortunately, there was only one street in Xiang City. Lu Yin and Qinglian Xiangyu confirmed the direction, or Master Ku Deng might not have been able to come out. They didn't want to go back in again. Why? They still couldn't come out. 100 years passed. Over the past 100 years, Lu Yin had built his mental walls and deduced his mirror light technique. He had entered Xiang City once, but this time he had been even closer to the city gates. That time he went in mainly to look for other creatures. Since Clear was trying to take control of Xiang City, he wouldn't just put 1 or 2 species inside. Whether it was species or cultivation level, there would definitely be all kinds of species inside. For example, Eternal Realm experts. If an Eternal Life Realm expert was thrown into Xiang City by Che, then that Eternal Life Realm expert must have a certain understanding of Che. Perhaps through this they could see some of Che's situation. Even though the chances are very low. There was nothing they could do about it. Before they were strong enough, they had to learn as much as they could. If they hadn't learned about Red Hero's strength early on, they would have been at a disadvantage. As for controlling Xiang City, he had no clue at all. There was no rush. He could take it slow. It was not easy to control a turbid artifact unless he obtained the inheritance from the 5th stronghold and knew exactly how to do it. Several years later, Bai Yu returned. Lu Yin visited Xiang City once every 5 years, and this time he saw Bai Yu. Bai Yu stood outside Xiang City waiting for him. "You're finally out. What happened?" Lu Yin asked. When Bai Yu saw Lu Yin, there was still some lingering fear on her face. "I turned into a vine and almost died inside." Lu Yin raised a brow. "Vine? That really wasn't easy. What happened? Tell me in detail." In the past 100 years, Bai Yu had been in Xiang City the longest. Bai Yu recalled, "I turned into a vine as soon as I entered and clung to the wall of a poor family." Bai Yu spoke bitterly as she had almost been burned several times. "There was one time when I caught fire, but it wasn't man-made. It was just a coincidence. Fortunately, a small dog passed by and extinguished the flames. I was very close to death that time and I felt like my body was burning." "That dog was a creature, right?" Lu Yin asked. Bai Yu nodded. "I communicated with it, but it didn't know how to escape from the city. I told it that it just needed to stick to the city gates, and it cried. It cried so hard that it felt like its heart was being torn apart. A long time ago it wanted to leave through the city gates, but when it got there, it realized that the gates were closed. It was only 10 meters away from the gates, but it was chased down and beaten black and blue. Could have escaped that time. How sad. It had suffered too much without knowing the rules. Lu Yin could already imagine how that puppy had managed to survive in Xiang City. Although the dog was bigger than an ant, it was still no match for an ant in Xiang City. It was chased and beaten everywhere, and it was even eaten as dog meat. Wait, where's that dog? Lu Yin suddenly thought of something. Bai shook her head. I haven't seen it again. Lu Yin's eyes flickered. That dog had probably left Xiang City before Bai, so where was it now? Because he was afraid of Clear and the dangers of the core space, he had not allowed anyone to guard Xiang City. If that dog had left, no one would know. Xiang City was too far away from the three universes, and he could not keep an eye on it at all times. Eternal Realm cultivators were fine, but it was not as if they had nothing to do. Do you know what kind of creature that dog was? I don't know. You didn't make a mistake turning into a vine. Lu Yin rubbed his head. Bai wanted to retort, but her experience in Xiang City made her unable to do so. Do you know that the dog might be an Eternal Realm cultivator? How can there be so many Eternal Realms? Then tell me, how long has it been since it left Xiang City? Bai thought about it. More than 10 years. Lu Yin stared at her. More than 10 years. Even an Eternal Realm cultivator cannot escape my sight, let alone a non-Eternal Realm cultivator. But where is it? Bai was speechless. Do you know that Xiang City will be exposed if an Eternal Realm cultivator escapes? What if it belongs to a fishing civilization? It can't be that coincidental. What if it is? Bai said, maybe it didn't come out at all. Lu Yin snorted. You're giving me trouble. Bai fell silent. You rejected my offer to enter Xiang City, and now you're giving me trouble again. What do you think I should do? Lu Yin said coldly. Bai looked at Lu Yin. Just tell me what you want. Lu Yin placed a hand on Bai's shoulder and brought her back to the Tianyuan universe. Enter the Mirage Domain and explore the forbidden areas. Find Xuanhuan for me. Bai was shocked. What did you say? Xuanhuan? Lu Yin said, the second stronghold's master, Xuanhuan, might be in one of the forbidden areas in the Mirage Domain. I need you to find her. Bai could not believe it. Xuanhuan is still alive? I don't know if she's still alive. I need you to tell me, Lu Yin said solemnly. Bai stared at Lu Yin dumbfounded. Xuanhuan was someone from the same era as Red Hero. She should have been the second stronghold's master who had been betrayed by Red Hero. Such an existence should have been lost in the river of time. Why me? Although you don't cultivate the heartless path, you're an underworld red coat, so you're suitable for the search. I don't have to be an underworld red coat to find her, do I? Lu Yin looked deeply at Bai. You've caused trouble for me and disobeyed my orders. You're not even willing to find your own stronghold's master. Do you think there's any meaning in keeping someone like you around? Bai said in a low voice, I'm an Eternal Realm. I can protect humanity without hesitation. Then go find Xuanhuan. If you find her, you'll have a way to deal with Red Hero. Otherwise we can only watch as Red Hero continues to live. As a member of the second stronghold, you have an obligation to eliminate him, Lu Yin said. Bai wanted to refuse, but she could not do so and was brought into the Mirage Domain by Lu Yin. There was more than one forbidden area in the Mirage Domain. However, other than the forbidden area where one comprehended karma and the forbidden area where fate had met Maiden, they had not entered the other forbidden areas. It was the progenitor's reminder. Now, the more he understood the Mirage Domain, the more he feared these forbidden areas. The forbidden area had buried Xuanhuan and had an opportunity to achieve immortality. It allowed one to comprehend karma, but Lu Yin did not know what else was in there. It might be beneficial or harmful to human civilization. He could only let Bai explore it first. He remembered the forbidden area that Xuanhuan had entered. Bai did not know why Lu Yin and the others were afraid of the forbidden area, but the words forbidden area were enough to explain everything. However, she had no choice but to enter. Lu Yin watched as Bai entered, hoping to obtain information about Xuanhuan from there. The turbid red umbrella of the second stronghold had been lost. It would be great if Bai could bring it back. Time passed in the Mirage Domain. After a long time, Bai could not help but walk out. She met Lu Yin's gaze with a blank expression. Lu Yin knew there was no hope for her. I didn't find Xuanhuan. That's not surprising. What's inside? Bai thought for a moment. It's a red world. It seems like I've entered the world of the heartless path. I don't cultivate the heartless path, so I came out after walking around inside. You only walked around? Luin was surprised. Bai nodded. Luin asked, how much time has passed in your sense of time? Bai thought for a moment. A day? Or maybe 3 days. Luin looked at the forbidden area. No, Bai had been in there for a long time. How could she blur her sense of time? However, this was the Mirage domain and the river of time was right next to it. Time should not exist. The time they sensed in the Mirage domain actually came from the main river of time. Now, the time in the forbidden area was blurry, so it definitely came from the main river of time. Bai was sure that there was the heartless path in this forbidden area. This meant that the red-clothed girl was indeed xuanhuan. Could xuanhuan's power be connected to the main river of time? As the second stronghold master, it was not impossible for her to do that. The xianxia of the Blood Tower wanted to touch the master river of time even in his dreams. Among all the creatures he knew, there was only one old man who could guide the master river of time. If xuanhuan could do the same, then this forbidden land might not be a forbidden land. If Bai was not in danger, then he should not be in danger either. Luin walked towards the forbidden area and brought Bai with him. There was no other reason than to lead the way. Chapter 4356. This time Bai did not refuse. There was nothing in this forbidden land except for the merciless Tao. As soon as he entered the forbidden area, the merciless Tao that assaulted him almost suffocated him. He could sense the power of the emotionless Tao. The stronger he was, the more he could sense it. Bai, on the other hand, could not sense it as deeply. Luin looked ahead and saw that the entire world was red, but this red was different from the bloody red of Heartless Valley. This was the true Heartless Tao. The Heartless Tao was divided into right and wrong. He had once thought of cultivating the Heartless Tao to perfect his state of mind, but he never had the chance. They walked step by step into the forbidden area. Bai pointed out a direction. It was still the same path, but after they finished walking they came out. When they looked back they didn't find anything. He had clearly seen the woman in red enter the forbidden zone, but the ruthless Tao was still there. Why can't I find it? This made him think of Xia. They had been searching for him in the 9th stronghold for so many years. He knew that the artifact-suppressing turbid treasure cauldron was in that universe, but he couldn't find it. The Karma Forbidden Land was strange, so he thought that this forbidden land wasn't simple at all. But it was so simple that it was strange. Could it be that only those who cultivated the Heartless Tao could attempt it? Luin brought Xuanhuan over. Although he was unwilling to cultivate the Heartless Tao, however, he had been cultivating all this time. He was a natural genius of the emotionless Tao. Xuanhuan was very obedient to Lu Yin's request, and he did not have any thoughts of rejecting Lu Yin's request. He entered the forbidden area without any hesitation, but he still did not find anything after circling around the area. He was unwilling to give up, and so he continued to enter the forbidden area. He tried again and again, but the results were the same. Luin sighed. Maybe he left, leaving behind the power of the emotionless Tao. Bai agreed. The forbidden area is only so big unless we can't see it. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat. Can't you see? He opened his heavenly eye and sensed for a while. Other than Bai, Xuanhuan, and a small number of cultivators who had entered the Mirage domain, no one was looking at him, especially those in the Forbidden Land. If xuanhuan was in the Forbidden Land, furthermore if they could see him, the heaven's eye would definitely detect him. Forget it, let's go. Luin led Bai and Xuanhuan out of the Mirage. As soon as they left the Mirage domain, Xuanhuan knelt on the ground, wanting to acknowledge Xianxia as his master. You want to take me as your master? Luin asked. Xuanhuan respectfully said, I beg Mr. to fulfill my wish. I'm much younger than you. If I can become your disciple, I will definitely become the blade of civilization. I will tread on the path of my ancestors. Even if I die, I will have no regrets. Luin looked at Xuanhuan. He actually found this person rather pleasing to the eye. Back in the Red Shirt civilization, this person had obeyed Lu Yin's every word, even if Xuanhuan had not seen Lu Yin's true strength at that time. Back then he had never thought of taking him in as a disciple. But now it was not impossible. The Red Coat civilization needed a legacy. Actually, Xuanhuan was the best successor. He wanted to cultivate powers other than the Heartless Path, but it did not mean that he could give up on the Heartless Path. Born in the Red Coat civilization under the stars, he was born with a closed heart. He would never be able to escape the path of heartlessness. Taking him in as a disciple was equivalent to appeasing the red coat civilization under the stars. What was even rarer was that this person's eyes were clear. To the current red coat civilization under the stars, he could be said to be untainted by the mud. He did not back down even when facing the strong. Luin nodded. "All right, I'll accept you as my disciple." Xuanhuan was overjoyed. "Many thanks, master." Lu Yin's voice transmitted to the sect above the heavens. "Pass down my orders. The apprenticeship ceremony will be held in 3 months. I want the red coat civilization under the stars to see this scene." The Xuanhuan universe was in an uproar. Lu Yin had accepted another disciple, and this one was from the red coat civilization under the stars. This immediately caused countless discussions. The entire sect above the heavens became busy. It was not difficult to let the red coat civilization under the stars see this scene. They only needed to record it in a jade. Then, Lu Yin would directly send it to the red coat civilization under the stars, and it would spread far and wide. He wanted the entire red coat civilization under the stars to know that although they were not from the same universe, they were all human civilizations. There was no difference between them. As one of the people with the highest status in the 3 universes, accepting a red coat cultivator under the stars was a form of attitude. Ku Wei, Hui Qin, Tua Lin, and the others all received the news and immediately rushed to the sect above the heavens. Since their master was accepting another disciple, they naturally could not miss this opportunity. They had heard that this disciple could actually wrestle with an eternal realm and was very strong. This was all the more reason they could not miss this opportunity. At the very least, they had to let this person know who was the senior in front of countless people and not use his cultivation to bully the strong. Tua Lin's thoughts were very simple. His master had accepted a disciple and he had family again. 3 months quickly passed. On this day, the sect above the heavens was extremely lively. Countless cultivators from the heavens origin universe had gathered, including many from the 9 firmaments universe and the spiritualized universe. They had all been cultivating in the heavens origin universe for a long time, and they had all rushed to the sect above the heavens. Since the sect above the heavens had been established, it had witnessed countless events that had changed history. There were mobilizations for war, executions, and declarations of war. Although this was only a disciple recruitment, the significance was not small. Within the sect above the heavens, the 3 realms, 6 paths, 3 suns, and 6 lords had all arrived. Outside, Li Shou, Su Wang, and the others were all entrenched in a dignified atmosphere. Even further away, countless gazes were watching, and many of them were Lu Yin's old friends. All of them gathered and chatted animatedly. Within the crowd, some people calmly watched this scene. Back in the day, Lu Yin had also been so glorious that no one could look directly at him. However, it had been like a flash in the pan and no one mentioned it again. Even if they did, it would only be with mockery and pity. However, it did not matter. He had changed and he knew how childish he had been in the past. No matter how low he had fallen, he was still a member of the Lu family. He was a genius who had awakened the innate gift of teleportation, and no one could compare to him. One day he would be able to stand in front of Master Lu and openly call him 7th brother. A mighty bell rang. Below the staircase, Xuanhuan looked up and saw many figures standing on both sides of the staircase. He had been in the 3 universes for some time and had seen many powerhouses. Today he had seen the strongest powerhouses in the heavens origin universe, second only to the eternal realm. Before coming to the 3 universes he had been looking forward to cultivating, but he did not think that the 3 universes would surpass the red shirt civilization. However, after arriving he realized that it was completely different. The red shirt civilization only had one heartless path. However, the 3 universes had more than one cultivation path. There were spirit seeds, astral sources, and consciousnesses. Mr. Lu had even created the Nirvana tree, which allowed people to challenge those of a higher realm. It could almost transform a cultivator's power to a whole new level. This had completely changed his understanding of the 3 universes. Not to mention, there were so many eternal realm powerhouses in the 3 universes. There were more than 1 or 2 people below the eternal realm who had reached their limit. Some of them could not reach their limit normally, but once they used the Nirvana tree they would reach their limit. Xuanhuan had fought with such powerhouses before, but he had not been able to do anything to them. Compared to the red shirt civilization, the 3 universes seemed to have inherited the legacy of the 9th base. They were a true human civilization. Today he was finally going to be apprenticed to the most respected person in the 3 universes, Mr. Lu. This day would change his life. On the staircase Lu Yin walked out and looked down. The bell rang throughout the heavens origin universe. Under the scorching and envious gazes of countless people, Chu Songyun stepped onto the staircase and walked up step by step. He passed by many cultivators including Ku Wei, Huiken, Tuolin and Yen Ruyu. Although they were Lu Yin's disciples, they could only stand at the bottom of the staircase as their seniority was too low. Chu Songyun walked up the staircase and faced the scrutinizing gazes from both sides. His expression was calm. Disciple Chu Songyun pays his respects to master. Lu Yin looked down from above. Chu Songyun, from today onwards you are my disciple. I do not expect you to be invincible in the world, nor do I expect you to be the strongest in history. I only hope that when the human civilization is in danger one day, you can become the blade of civilization and charge at the front. You will not let me down. Chu Songyun was excited. I will remember this in my heart. Get up. Thank you, master. Lu Yin raised his hand, and at his fingertip, a green light spot landed on Chu Songyun. Today I will teach you the Nirvana tree technique, 10,000 branches. Chu Songyun's eyes lit up. This was another path of cultivation. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. As the green light spot entered his body shook and there were changes in his body. It was as if a big tree was taking root, sprouting and branching. The Nirvana tree technique was a path of fusion. It did not conflict with his original cultivation path. However, as the Nirvana tree technique entered his body, his gaze became confused. Scenes of the past flashed before his eyes. When he was born, his heart was closed. He hated the emotionless path. He hated everyone's indifference. He hated their selfishness. He hated the emotionless valley. He longed to leave that universe and walk another path of cultivation. The Nirvana tree technique had taken root, and another path of cultivation had appeared. However, what was with that reluctance? Was it his reluctance? Or was it his body's reluctance? Why did he have such emotions? He clearly hated the emotionless path, but why? What? The surrounding people realized that something was wrong with Chu Songyun. Lu Yin stared at him and saw the confusion in his eyes. All sorts of emotions kept flashing through his eyes. He suddenly raised his hand and tapped the air. Chu Songyun's body shook, and the big tree that had taken root in his body suddenly stopped. Lu Yin's voice sounded in his ears. Everyone has their own path to walk. Chu Songyun, look at your heart and see yourself clearly. Chu Songyun stared blankly at Lu Yin, who was on the stairway. He was so tall and mighty. The Nirvana tree technique that his master had imparted to him was the best path of cultivation. Many people had cultivated it, so it should be the best path. But why was he so reluctant to part with the emotionless path? The emotionless path had not disappeared. It had only been integrated into the Nirvana tree technique. But why was this happening? Lu Yin looked at Chu Songyun. What a domineering emotionless path. As expected of the second stronghold's inherited power. It was unwilling to be inferior to any other power. The Nirvana tree technique could integrate all powers. However, it was resisted by the emotionless path. This was because the emotionless path could not be integrated. The emotionless path was the emotionless path. Regardless of right or wrong, the emotionless path could only be the emotionless path. This was the dignity of the second stronghold. If Chu Songyun insisted on cultivating the Nirvana tree technique, the emotionless path would be gone. He would not be able to retain the emotionless path that he had once cultivated, even if it was not what he wanted. Now it was up to him to choose. Actually, Chu Songyun hated the emotionless path and should not have hesitated to choose the Nirvana tree technique. But if it were that simple, the eternal realm would have spread throughout the universe. A person's heart was the most difficult to determine. There was nothing wrong with the emotionless path itself. It was just that it had been passed down to this generation that was wrong, and the people who cultivated it were wrong. However, the emotionless path that Chu Songyun cultivated had always followed its own principles. He was not wrong. Even though he had not cultivated it since he was in the second stronghold, he had taken the right path. Chapter 4357. Chu Songyun was confused. Between the heartless path and the Nirvana tree, which one should it be? Why was he reluctant to part with the heartless path? Didn't he hate the heartless path? Lu Yin shouted, "Do you hate the heartless path or the current red coats?" This sentence was like a bolt of lightning that struck Chu Songyun's confusion. He was stunned as he stared blankly at the ground. Below, Ku Wei rolled his eyes and nudged Huiken, "Look at this kid's act. He made such a big commotion by acknowledging a master." Huiken said, "That's right. We didn't even receive such treatment when we acknowledged a master. He's too good at making his presence known. Don't you think so, senior?" Tuolin was worried. "Is this junior all right? He seems to be in pain." "What? Xiaoyu, you're right. How can anything happen to him with Master around? I understand. Xiaoyu, you're the best. Master is proud of you. Ku Wei and Huiken rolled their eyes at the same time. Crazy. Those outside the sect did not know what was happening. Chu Songyun seemed to have gone mad. Could it be that he was too excited about acknowledging a master that his brain was damaged? Everyone was waiting. Lu Yin was not in a hurry and the others were even less anxious. Not long after, Chu Songyun looked up at Lu Yin. His gaze had recovered and was filled with determination. He slowly knelt down. Master, this disciple is guilty. What are you guilty of? This disciple does not want to cultivate the nirvana tree. Once this was said, everyone was in an uproar. They all looked at Chu Songyun as if he was an idiot. Not cultivating the nirvana tree? Was this guy's brain damaged? Throughout the universe, who did not want to cultivate the nirvana tree? The nirvana tree did not affect one's original cultivation strength. It could even fuse all of one's strength, allowing one to explode with great power for a short period of time. It could be said that the existence of the nirvana tree allowed the top powerhouses of the three universes to leap to a higher level. The most obvious example was the Startle Gate upper defense. With the help of the nirvana tree, she had even surpassed the Blood Tower upper defense. It did not affect her cultivation at all. A cultivation path that did not affect one's cultivation and could allow one's power to soar. How could someone not cultivate it? Especially at this apprenticeship ceremony. Wasn't this a slap to Mr. Lu's face? Many people's expressions darkened. Tuo Lin frowned. Lu Yin didn't get angry. Instead he smiled. Why not? Chu Songyun knelt down deeply. This disciple wishes to continue cultivating the emotionless Tao. Many people looked at Chu Songyun with eyes full of puzzlement and mockery. However, there were also many people who admired him. It was not easy to choose one's own path of cultivation under such circumstances, but why did it have to be at this time? They all looked at Lu Yin. Right, because of the Nirvana Tree technique, Master Lu had only imparted the Nirvana Tree technique to Chu Songyun now. Moreover, Master Lu's words had been guiding Chu Songyun. He didn't insist that Chu Songyun cultivate the Nirvana Tree. Of course, they couldn't understand why the Nirvana Tree didn't affect the cultivation of other powers. No one understood Chu Songyun except for Lu Yin. This was the merciless Tao, a tyrannical inherited power. If one cultivated it, they would only be able to cultivate it. If they wanted to cultivate other powers, they would have to give it up. Lu Yin's words had cleared Chu Songyun's confusion and allowed him to stay true to his heart. For this reason, even if he refuted the Nirvana Tree in front of countless people, Chu Songyun was willing to pay the price. He knelt down. He knew that his choice would embarrass his master, but he was willing to accept any price. He was guilty. Lu Yin smiled. He smiled very happily. Chu Songyun, your master was wrong. Everyone looked at Lu Yin in shock. Was he confused? Chu Songyun raised his head and looked at Lu Yin in confusion. Lu Yin placed his hands behind his back and smiled. In the beginning, I said that I didn't expect you to be invincible. I didn't expect you to be the strongest since ancient times. Now I take back my words. His voice reverberated throughout the starry sky and resounded in the ears of countless people. As the successor of the Nine Walls' merciless Tao, your will is firm and your heart is the same as before. I want you to be invincible, the strongest since ancient times. This is my request for you when you acknowledge me as your master. You must take up the responsibility of inheriting the merciless Tao in the second stronghold. The merciless Tao has no right or wrong. Merciless can also have feelings. This is one of the inheritances of human civilization. Since you have chosen it, I want you to pass it down. Can you do it? Chu Songyun panted heavily as his heart pounded. He looked up at Lu Yin and replied loudly, I can do it. Lu Yin nodded. Good. I will wait for that day. When the time comes, you will be the blade of civilization. Chu Songyun knelt down again. I will definitely die before civilization and fight for the inheritance of human civilization. After the apprenticeship ceremony ended, everyone dispersed. What happened today made many people see something different. The merciless Tao seemed to be very popular with Master Lu. They had heard that Master Lu hated the merciless Tao of the Red Coat civilization, but why was it like this? Also, could it be that the merciless Tao and the Nirvana Tree's techniques could not be merged? Many people wanted to ask Chu Songyun, but not mentioning his identity as Lu Yin's disciple, his combat strength alone was enough to stand at the top of the human civilization, second only to the peak of the eternal realm. Not everyone could come into contact with him. Ku Wei and the others were an exception. Lu Yin went to the above heavens sect's back mountain. Ku Wei and the others found Chu Songyun and addressed him as junior brother. Although they were envious of this junior brother's apprenticeship and their tone was sour, he was still their junior brother. Tuolin was very happy that he had more relatives. Chu Songyun was also very happy that he had relatives. This was something that the Red Coat civilization could not experience. However, was there something wrong with senior brother Tuolin's brain? Who was Xiaoyu? Where was she? At the above heaven sect's back mountain, Lu Yin sat at the stone table and looked at the starry sky, deep in thought. Chu Songyun hated the merciless Tao, but it was not the true merciless Tao. It was not his fault that he gave up on the merciless Tao, but the merciless Tao's fault. It was the fault of the current merciless Tao. People said that strength was not divided into good and evil, but talent was. However, the current merciless Tao was wrong. This strength made family members cold and dissipated emotions. This was not wrong. What was it? Chu Songyun lived under the merciless Tao, but he could distinguish the good and evil of the merciless Tao. Then what about him? Distinguishing the good and evil of strength was only one of them. He also hated the current merciless Tao. He could see the good and evil of the merciless Tao, but it did not mean that he could see other things. The higher one stood, the harder it was to see what was below. Chu Songyun's pure cultivation. Then where did his purity lie? As he thought about this, a high mental state wall stood in front of Lu Yin. It was black and white, and it was as if he could see the faces of countless people. Countless people's faces had built this mental state wall. The wall was black and white. Lu Yin raised his hand and touched between the two colors. The next moment, the mental state wall turned into two beams of light that wrapped around his body. It was still black and white. Countless experiences and the past appeared one by one. Lu Yin stood in his original position and did not move, allowing the black and white beams to wrap around him. However, in the eyes of outsiders there was nothing. Long she took a look and retreated. Lu Yin was obviously comprehending. What was a genius? What was difficult for ordinary people to understand was a genius. Geniuses could often have an epiphany from a small matter. Chu Songyun's choice had given Lu Yin the opportunity to have an epiphany. The more one obtained, the harder it was to see good and evil. Humans had to walk the path of being ordinary. The more ordinary they were, the clearer they could see. This step was called transcendence. Transcendence into the mortal world. Lu Yin's eyes widened as he looked at the starry sky. Cultivation was a circle that connected the entire path of cultivation. Beside the eternal life realm was the mortal world. Transcendence to achieve eternal life. Was this his own path? Persevering in confusion, keeping one state of mind undisturbed. Breaking through to eternal life did not depend on the length of time. What mattered was the recognition of oneself, the recognition of the universe, and the recognition of the distance. At this moment, Master Qingqiao suddenly came to the back of the mountain. Long she quickly stopped him. He's comprehending. Master Qingqiao looked at the back of the mountain. Didn't he just accept a disciple? Come in. Lu Yin's voice came. Master Qingqiao walked past Long Shi and entered the back of the mountain. When he saw Lu Yin, he said directly, "There's a newcomer who wants to join the unknown." Lu Yin was surprised. Who? I don't know. Master Qingqiao said. Lu Yin frowned and immediately entered the starry sky. He lay in the hanging coffin on a barren planet and entered the unknown. As soon as he entered the unknown, he heard De Mao agree. Then Lu Yin heard several unfamiliar voices. Some had spoken before, such as the one he almost called Air Mao, but some had never spoken. Lu Yin memorized the voice and asked, "Eight colors, there's a newcomer who wants to join?" Eight colors' voice sounded, Miao Zun. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. Miao Zun? What a strange name. Introduce him. Hee kid, this is going to be fun. This Miao Zun is very interesting. De Mao gloated. The more it was like this, the more uneasy Lu Yin felt. This meant that Miao Zun's joining was beneficial to it and not to him. In fact, no matter what Miao Zun was like, as long as he joined, he would have to worship the divine tree and choose a color. Currently there were 3 known colors for him to choose from: red, silver, and blue. No matter which color Miao Zun chose, Lu Yin would have to hand over the thread of the corresponding color. The tricolor thread allowed him to defeat the mud blade. Although it was uncontrollable and backfired on him, it was at least a trump card that could allow him to fight for his life at a critical moment. If one thread was taken away, this trump card would be gone. Secondly, if Miao Zun wanted to join, the 8 colors would force him to worship the divine tree in advance, which meant that he would have to enter the unknown alone. This was not a risk he was willing to take. When he thought of this, Lu Yin's heart sank. This was troublesome. No information about the unknown will be revealed by the unknown. I can only tell you the reason for inviting him. First, it's his cultivation. Miao Zun is compatible with the laws of the universe, so his cultivation is not below Lan Meng's. Second, the unknown has suffered continuous losses and needs to be compensated. That's all? That's all. Do I have the right to decide? Luin asked. Every unknown has the right to choose whether or not they want to join. Luin was about to speak when Demao spoke up, but it doesn't matter what you choose. Most of the unknown have already made their choice and agreed to let him join. Even if you object, it's useless. Demao, you sound like you're very familiar with him. Luin was curious. Demao snorted. There was a war and Miao Zun's civilization was the enemy. In the end they were all destroyed and only Miao Zun survived. It's easy to see him, there's a picture of his race on the door. Chapter 4358. Luin thought of the unknown door. There were all kinds of creatures on the door. Was Miao Zun's civilization among them? Luin was not surprised that Miao Zun's civilization was destroyed by the unknown, but he still wanted to join the unknown. There were always all kinds of reasons. He also joined the unknown. Maybe Miao Zun was like him, or maybe he didn't care about his own civilization. There were many such creatures. Knowing Trace will be more lively from now on, ha, the old man said. Luin suddenly shouted, Che, are you there? Luin, what is it? What is it? Che asked. Most of the unknown were here at this time because they had to choose whether to agree to Miao Zun's joining. Can you tell me about Miao Zun's situation? Luin asked. Che was helpless. Sorry, I haven't experienced the war with Miao Zun's civilization. Demao laughed. You can ask Red Hero. He has experienced it. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Red Hero had experienced it? At this time 8 Colors' voice sounded. Luin, Miao Zun has been allowed to join the unknown. He will be contacted soon. Once he agrees, the test will begin. Before he joins the unknown, you must worship the divine tree and choose your color. At the same time, you must hand over the divine power threads of the other 2 colors. Otherwise you will break the rules. I have to remind you seriously. Luin was helpless. His tone was excited. That's great. There are new people joining the unknown. We will definitely grow stronger. 8 Color, I am very happy. Haha. By the way, all the members of the unknown are in Knowing Trace, right? Can you say hello? Luin shouted. No one responded. He shouted a few more times. It seemed that in the entire Knowing Trace, except for Demao and a few limited ones, no one was willing to respond. Luin was helpless. He had been jumping up and down in Knowing Trace. Sometimes he even put down his dignity to speak in order to understand the unknown, the mortal enemy of mankind. However, some guys were too hidden and could not be lured out. Just as he was about to leave, Red Hero's voice suddenly sounded. Luin, come and find me. Luin was stunned. Red Hero? Come and find me. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. What did Red Hero mean? He left Knowing Trace, opened the lid of the hanging coffin, and looked in the direction of the red shirt. Looking for him? It was impossible to start a war at this time. He could not even attack the 3 universes. Red Hero must be looking for him. After thinking about it for a moment, Luin teleported towards the red shirt civilization. At the same time, Demao's voice came from Jizong. Looks like Red Hero is going to sow discord. He purposely spoke in Jizong just to let you hear it. Boss, you have to protect Miao Zun well. Don't get killed before he even comes in. The 8 Colors said calmly, we don't accept trash if we don't know. Hehe, I can't be used either. After continuously teleporting, Luin arrived at the red shirt civilization below the star and met with Red Hero. Red Hero looked at Luin coldly. Congratulations, you made it out of the battlefield alive. Luin sized up Red Hero. Congratulations to you too for breaking the rules and coming out unscathed. Red Hero sneered, I didn't break the rules. I've already explained it to 8 Colors. Luin smiled, I believe you. After all, I've helped you explain that you were tricked by the mud blade because your brain isn't good. Red Hero's eyes grew colder. But Red Hero, you really need to train your brain. Mud Blade was stupid enough to send himself to me, but you still got tricked. I really don't know how you've lived for so long, Luin mocked. Red Hero said, I don't know how you killed Mud Blade. Sometimes luck won't always be on your side, just like this time. Miao Zun? Luin was puzzled. Red Hero put his hands behind his back. Miao Zun's civilization is disgusting. He likes to devour fresh meat, and Miao Zun is the strongest in this civilization. His favorite fresh meat is humans. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed as he stared at Red Hero. Red Hero said coldly, I don't know when he ate humans, but when I met him in the war, he said that humans are delicious. Luin narrowed his eyes. He understood why Red Hero called him here. He wanted to use him to break the rules of the unknowns and kill Miao Zun so that Miao Zun could not join the unknowns. There were many reasons to kill Miao Zun, but Red Hero's reason was undoubtedly the most important. He also understood why De Mao was acting like that. Luin did not suspect that Red Hero was lying to him. This kind of thing was easy to find out as long as he met Miao Zun face to face. If he dared to say it, it would be proven to be true. You can leave now, Red Hero said coldly. Luin looked at him deeply. You don't care at all? Red Hero's figure disappeared. Care? Why should he care? There were so many humans. Who knew how many of those Bates had survived and how many had died? He only regretted not betraying them later and causing the inheritance of the three universes. Luin teleported to the front of the blood tower and asked Jianghu if he knew about Miao Zun. Jianghu did not know. Luin was helpless. He could only leave and think of a way. Red Hero's move was obvious. It was equivalent to telling everyone that he was trying to provoke Luin to attack Miao Zun. It all depended on what Luin would do. No matter what he did, his goal was to get rid of Miao Zun. Regardless of whether he broke the rules in the end, the unknowns would be dissatisfied. After all, Miao Zun's participation was approved by most of the unknowns. It would be better if the 8 colors were dissatisfied. The unknowns would not just join Miao Zun. If he could get rid of one, could he get rid of another? This was under the premise that Luin could not break the rules and get rid of Miao Zun. Normally, it would be difficult to do so. Red Hero looked into the distance. If you dare to attack Miao Zun, you are walking on the edge of breaking the rules. Miao Zun is not that easy to kill. As long as he says that he is willing to join the unknowns before he dies, you will be breaking the rules. Not only can you not kill him, but you will also have to break the rules. Luck will not always be on your side. Luin returned to the Xuanhuan universe. Master Qingxiao was still at the back mountain. Luin told him what had happened. He wanted to hear Master Qingxiao's opinion. After all, Master Qingxiao had his own understanding of the unknowns. I advise you not to act rashly. Master Qingxiao's heart was heavy. If Miao Zun agrees to join the unknowns, he will definitely get the hanging coffin. Even if you attack him, can you guarantee that he will not escape? Especially if Miao Zun agrees to join the unknowns, you cannot attack him. Otherwise you will be breaking the rules. When you joined the unknowns, Lan Meng's mission automatically became invalid. This is also the reason. Luin interrupted, did he agree to join the unknowns or did he agree to join after a test? Master Qingxiao was silent for a moment. This is Red Hero's way of dealing with you. These 2 points are on the verge of breaking the rules. They may or may not break the rules. Luin rubbed his head. Since he stepped into the world of cultivation, few of the enemies he encountered were stupid. All of them knew how to use people's hearts, rules, and even themselves. In fact, there were only 2 ways for people to climb to a high position. One was to be good at using oneself, and the other was to be good at using others. This time, Red Hero obviously wanted to use Luin to deal with himself. He could not let a creature like Miao Zun join the unknowns, especially when it involved handing over the thread of divine power, worshipping the divine tree and so on. Miao Zun must be dealt with. But how? There were too many things involved. Master Qingxiao left. His advice was always to do nothing. It was good to keep things as they were. If it was just handing over a thread of divine power, Luin was willing to keep things as they were. Even if Miao Zun had eaten humans, he could find a chance to deal with him later. There was no need to rush. After all, the stability of human civilization was not easy. However, it also involved him having to find out the whereabouts of the person himself. That was different. Even though the probability of something happening was not high, he did not want to take the risk. If something happened to him, human civilization would be half destroyed. It was not just strength but also teleportation, karma, and so on. They were indispensable to human civilization. Luin himself was also the key to bonding the 3 universes together. Why don't we find someone to join the unknowns and get rid of Miao Zun in the test? Wei Rong sat opposite Luin and suggested. Luin thought about it and decided to look for Wei Rong. He was the best at scheming. Luin said, that's a good idea. Firstly, we can find out where Miao Zun is through the test. Secondly, if we can get rid of Miao Zun, we can find someone like me who can delay their journey to worship the divine tree. It will not affect me. But the problem is who to look for. They first thought of the boss of the 7 treasures, Heavenly Toad. Boss was an absolute powerhouse who was compatible with 2 universal laws. His strength was far beyond Miao Zun's, and he did not belong to human civilization. They believed that the unknowns would be willing to let him join. The unknowns had once invited old ancestor Shan, but old ancestor Shan had rejected them. However, there was another problem. If boss really joined the unknowns, he would not be able to attack Red Hero. After the 1,000-year protection period, Red Hero could directly attack. At that time he would lose boss and it would be difficult for Qinglian Xiangyu alone to resist. Lu Yin was not sure if he could break through to the Eternal Realm at that time. No one could say for sure what would happen in the future. Let's deal with the problem at hand first. We can talk about the future later, Wei Rong said. Lu Yin looked up. If I don't join the unknowns, I'll kill Miao Zun. Wei Rong shook his head. We don't know the destination of Miao Zun's test. Red Hero will tell me, Lu Yin said. That's true. Right, what about the Immortal Master? He's very suitable. Wei Rong suddenly remembered. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Right, compared to boss, the Immortal Master was more suitable. Even though the Immortal Master was not one of his people, their past grievances had been resolved. The Immortal Master was extremely fearful of human civilization, especially since Lu Yin had planted the Path Sword in his body to deal with the Immortal Plume. If the Immortal Master joined the unknowns, he would not be able to help Lu Yin deal with Miao Zun. At the very least, Lu Yin would be able to find out where Miao Zun was and then ambush him. If the Immortal Master joined the unknowns, what would happen to the Immortal Plume civilization? The Immortal Plume would definitely not be satisfied. When the time came, the Immortal Plume would battle with the unknowns, which would be enough to reduce the chances of the three universes being dealt with by the Immortal Plume. The Immortal Master was the most suitable candidate. But the problem was that they could not find the Immortal Master. Even though the Immortal Master had the Path Sword in his body, Luo Chan's teleportation was different from Lu Yin's. He could teleport anywhere he wanted and only the heavens knew how far he could go. Given the Immortal Master's fear of Lu Yin and the others, it would be better for him to stay as far away as possible. Lu Yin was helpless. For the time being he had to choose boss. However, he had to convince boss first. Chapter 4359. The Seven Treasures. Heavenly Toad and the Unknown were also old enemies. Lu Yin went to find boss and teleported again and again. Boss was still looking for little 18, but he didn't teleport. His search range was limited. The range was limited, but there were many directions. Lu Yin came to the place where he had found boss many times and looked in all directions. Boss definitely didn't want to see him again. He teleported again and again to search in all directions. Suddenly Lu Yin saw something strange. Was that the one-line sky? Jade. The one-line sky. Lu Yin teleported over and looked at the cloud-like green one-line sky in front of him. From afar it looked like jade. That's right. This was the 3 stars mission he had accepted to capture the jade. If he didn't see this, Lu Yin would have forgotten that he still had an unknown mission to complete. He didn't expect to find it so coincidentally. Lu Yin. A familiar voice came from afar. Lu Yin looked over in surprise. Boss? He didn't expect boss to be nearby. Even though boss wasn't far from the jade. The one-line sky was in his line of sight, but he didn't see it. If he didn't use the mirroring technique, boss's range of sight would be much greater than his. Boss regretted it. This kid didn't see him. He shouldn't have spoken. Lu Yin was very happy to see boss. I finally found you. Boss. Boss stared at Lu Yin vigilantly. What's the matter? Do you remember what you said before? That was the last time you attacked. Lu Yin looked serious. Of course. I'm looking for you this time because of the unknown. Boss's eyes widened and his killing intent skyrocketed. The unknown. When old ancestor Shan died in battle, he said that there was something secretly watching. And Lan Meng attacked. In addition to the feud with the unknown, boss was very sure that the existence that killed old ancestor Shan belonged to the unknown. Therefore he was very concerned about anything related to the unknown and wanted to destroy it. Lu Yin said in a low voice, a new creature is going to join the unknown. Once it joins, the unknown's strength will increase. And because I haven't gone to worship the divine tree yet, not only will I have to go, but I also have to hand over. Lu Yin didn't hide anything this time and told him all the pros and cons. There was no need to hide anything. Boss wouldn't allow anything that was beneficial to the unknown. You want me to kill Miao Zun and stop him from joining the unknowns? Boss said in a low voice. Lu Yin nodded. You don't have to kill him. You can capture him. After all, killing an eternal life realm cultivator is too restrictive. Boss's eyes were filled with killing intent. Now that one is dead, you want to add another? Impossible. I definitely won't let the unknown power increase. Don't worry. Leave Miao Zun to me. As soon as it finished speaking, it looked at Lu Yin suspiciously. You're not lying to me this time, right? Lu Yin was speechless. I've never lied to you before. Boss deeply remembered the words, maybe it's because it's compatible with the laws of two universes, which left a shadow in his heart. However, Lu Yin had not lied about that, and Red Hero really did fit the laws of the two universes. There was nothing wrong with that. Right, boss, why are you here? Lu Yin asked. Boss looked ahead. That thing is strange. That's jade. A silver lining. Jade. One-line sky? You know? Lu Yin nodded. This is the 3 stars mission that the unknowns gave me, which is to capture the jade-line sky. The boss wasn't surprised. Capture? Then we can't let it succeed. Lu Yin laughed. There are many jade-line sky, and it comes from a civilization called the Jade Universe. This civilization is close to the fishing civilization. The mission to destroy the Jade Universe belongs to the 4 stars in the unknowns, but it was taken by other unknowns. Our mission is to find the location of the Jade Universe by capturing the jade-line sky. Whether the unknowns get it or not, it won't affect anything. Boss said in a deep voice, what if we find the Jade Universe first and join forces with it to deal with the unknowns? Lu Yin looked at Boss. That's what I told old ancestor Shan. Boss was silent. Old ancestor Shan didn't agree, and he also told them not to get involved with the human civilization. The possibility of this was not high. In the square-inch world, there was no communication between civilizations, only war. The word, alliance, was too rare in the square-inch world. Right, boss, you don't seem surprised that it's related to the unknowns. Do you know why I'm targeting it? Lu Yin was curious. Boss said, this jade-line sky is different from the normal jade-line sky. Not only does it spread information, but once you get close, it can easily take you away and send you to an unknown place. I suspect that it has something to do with Little 18's disappearance, so I'm planning to use it to see where it can send you. Transfer? Something like that. Lu Yin looked at the jade-line sky. Wasn't this the same as the unknown's door? Could it be that the unknowns wanted to destroy the Jade Universe because it had the same ability? It wasn't impossible. Otherwise, why couldn't the unknowns find the Jade Universe? Why would they issue such a serious mission, even if it was only 4 stars? What kind of information does it spread? Lu Yin asked. Boss said, every few years this thing will spread information about the unknowns. Although the information is very little, it clearly mentions that the unknowns belong to the fishing civilization. Be careful of the door, so I'm not surprised that it's related to the unknowns. I've been keeping an eye on it. Lu Yin raised an eyebrow. There was such a thing? 8 Colors hadn't mentioned it back then. It seemed that this Jade Universe was really at odds with the unknowns. Not only did it spread information about the unknowns through the jade-line sky, but it also had an ability similar to the unknown's door. The fact that the Jade Universe could be confirmed as a 4 stars mission meant that it had less than 10 eternal beings. If its knowledge of the square-inch distance was limited, it would indeed dare to challenge any civilization. At that time, the human civilization only had 4 eternal beings, and they confirmed that the unknowns were their archenemies and killed Chishu. The Jade Universe was stronger than the human civilization at that time. Lu Yin approached the jade-line sky. As he approached, the jade-line sky was like a green monster opening its mouth and swallowing. Lu Yin waved his hand, and in the void, time flowed. Countless lines spread out from the jade-line sky and forcibly opened the closed entrance. What a strong force, and it was indeed the traces of time. It was so sudden that ordinary eternal beings might not be able to withstand it. Lu Yin felt the jade-line sky's ability and looked back at Boss. Little 18's disappearance might really be related to it. Boss said, I've been watching it. It's easy to be sent away by following it, but it's not so easy to find the way back. That's why I didn't go in rashly. Senior is also waiting for me. Boss did not refute. He cared about Little 18, and he also cared about the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan. After losing Patriarch Shan, the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan could not lose him again. Lu Yin knew what Boss was thinking. He hoped to take the entire 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan and leave through the jade-line sky. No matter what happened on the other side, unless it was an existence that conformed to the laws of the 3 universes, nothing would happen to the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan. Now that Lu Yin let him know that the Jade Universe represented by the jade-line sky could not compare to the fishing civilization, he felt more confident. Lu Yin and Boss were silent. Boss did not know what to say. The 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan entered the 3 universes mainly to repay Lu Yin for saving their lives. Now they had to leave in such a short time. Although they had helped several times, it was not very reasonable. Senior, have you thought about what will happen if you encounter an unstoppable disaster when you teleport over? Luin asked. Boss looked at the jade-lined sky and slowly said, unless it's a fishing civilization, and even if it is, they won't fight to the death with the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan. The price is too high. Living in a space of inches, it's impossible to rest easy forever. There are some dangers that have to be experienced. Luin understood. He could not stop Boss from searching for his son. This was unfair to Boss. In fact, the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan had already helped them a lot. The 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan was similar to most of the civilizations in the space of inches. They did not wish to communicate with other civilizations. I understand. Please take good care of the Star Toad, Luin said. Boss looked at Luin. Don't worry. I will leave after helping you deal with Miaozun. Also, if you don't mind, I would like to leave some of my clan behind. Luin nodded. Of course. Leaving some of the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad behind was a backup plan for Boss to prevent an unstoppable crisis on the other side of the jade-lined sky. Also, he could help Luin translate the text on the armor plate. It was a way to repay Luin for saving the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad. Leaving along the jade-lined sky was not only because Boss wanted to find little 18, but also to avoid the human civilization. Before Grandmaster Shan died, he had asked the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad to help the humans. Boss knew Grandmaster Shan's thoughts too well. Grandmaster Shan did not want the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad to have too much involvement with the humans. During this period of time in the human civilization, Boss had seen it. The human civilization was too good at causing trouble. Even though they were getting stronger, the previous 9th base was defeated. He did not want the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad to be destroyed like the human civilization. Looking for little 18 was just one of the reasons. There was no communication between civilizations. It was not just a saying. No matter how Luin treated the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan, they would have to leave eventually. Capturing the jade-lined sky was not difficult for Luin. There were no living creatures in the jade-lined sky. They had all been sent away. It was more like an extension of some kind of power. As long as one could surpass its power, one could capture it. Luin asked Boss to keep an eye on the jade-lined sky while he returned to the human civilization to wait for news from Red Hero. Red Hero wanted to use him to deal with Miaozun and make him break the unknown rules. He had to tell him where Miaozun was. This was the only way Luin could find out. Otherwise he could ask Boss to join the unknown and go through the test with Miaozun. However, this would be too obvious. Even if some rules had to be broken, they had to be done in secret and not in the open. Not long after, Luin returned to the human civilization. He sat quietly in the back mountain of the Above Heaven sect and waited. Chu Songyun's apprenticeship had allowed him to see his own path to immortality. If the high wall of the heart realm was a shortcut, then comprehending shedding mortality was the direction. However, the prerequisite for shedding mortality was to reach the peak of one's current state of mind. It was obvious that he had not reached that stage yet. The path had appeared and the next step was to walk it. He calmed his heart and meditated. If there was night in this world, there would be day. Chapter 4360. One day, half a year later, Xiaoran suddenly appeared with a slip of paper in her hand. It was a coordinate. Luin looked at Xiaoran in confusion. Xiaoran said, "From the River of Time." I don't know what it means. Luin looked at the coordinates on the note. From the River of Time? Okay, thank you. He got up and teleported away. No matter who gave the coordinates, he had to go and take a look. The coordinates were very far away. But he had teleportation. He would arrive soon. 20 years away from the coordinates, Luin stopped and looked into the distance. He saw a universe and a civilization. That civilization gave him a very ordinary feeling. Perhaps it was because it was too far away. Luin got closer and looked at the civilization in the distance. It was still very ordinary. But when he got closer, he felt the aura of the eternal realm. It filled the universe at all times. This feeling was similar to the Green Lotus Emperor using karma to protect the 3 universes. But the power was much weaker. It was just an ordinary eternal realm. Could it be? This was Miaozun's test place? Back then, he was tested by the unknown to eradicate the Bramble civilization. And the Bramble civilization only had one eternal realm. Miaozun's test should be similar. After all, it was not the test itself. It was its ability to use the civilization. If he wanted to pass the test, he could not do it himself. He had to use other civilizations to destroy the target civilization. If that was the case, then who gave the coordinates? It could not be Red Hero. There was no need for him to hide it. He could just tell him directly. Only the unknown would know these coordinates. Other than Red Hero, who else would tell him about this? The first thing he thought of was the old man. This old man could guide the river of time. It was not impossible for the river of time to pass down a note. Moreover, although this old man disgusted him many times, he did save his life on the battlefield. Could it be him? Luin suppressed his guess. No matter who it was, since this civilization might be Miao Zun's target and Red Hero told him in advance, it would be beneficial to him. He first went to Boss to capture Jade. Then he brought Boss, Blood Tower Emperor, Jade, and the 7 Treasures Sky Toad clan to the target civilization. It was a distance away from the target civilization, but it was enough for Boss to arrive quickly. He would not be noticed by the eternal realm of that civilization. Then he went to the Red Coat civilization under the stars. If Red Hero wanted him to walk on the edge of breaking the unknown rules, or even directly break the rules, then he would let him be the witness that he did not break the rules. At a distance of a square inch, under a dark starry sky, a dark red gas covered the earth, covering the sky and the sun. On the ground, all kinds of strange and malevolent insects were crawling here and there. Some of them were curled up into a ball and rolled around. It was extremely horrifying. The void distorted and a shadow walked out. He took out a suspended coffin and drew a door. Underground, a pair of hideous eyes opened. Its eyeballs were raised as it stared at the ground. The shadow drew the door and lowered its head, as if it was looking into the pair of ferocious eyes. Miao Zun, are you willing to enter my unknown realm? That pair of eyes flashed with a ferocious chill, and a sound like glass being cut came out. I'm willing. Alright, if you complete the test, you'll be able to enter the unknown. The goal of the test is to condense the universe. You're not allowed to act on your own. You can only use your civilization. If you pass the test, you'll be able to join. I wish you good luck. With that, the shadow stepped into the door and disappeared. After the shadow disappeared, the ground cracked open, and a huge 3-horned strange insect crawled out. It was huge and oppressed the void. More than 10 hammer-like feet stepped on the ground, and every step it took was enough to split the starry sky from bottom to top. It stretched its body and roared at the sky, shattering the starry sky. Then it jumped up and ran in a direction. The unknown realm was really troublesome. If it wanted to destroy a civilization, it had to use other civilizations. Fortunately, it knew the hiding location of that civilization. It had once joined forces with the civilization it was in to fight against the unknown realm. In the end, its civilization was destroyed and that civilization was also crippled. However, even if it was crippled, destroying a civilization with only one eternal realm was not a problem. However, that civilization knew about the unknown realm and would not easily pass through the door. Then it would force them. Thinking of this, Miao Zun ran faster and faster, far exceeding that of an ordinary eternal realm. Every step left a deep dent in the space of a square inch, shattering the starry sky. On the other side, Luin arrived at the Red Coat civilization under the stars. He did not look for Red Hero. Instead, he went directly to the front of the Blood Tower, facing Xuanhuan, and sat cross-legged in the void. Xuanhuan was puzzled. What are you doing? Luin and Xuanhuan looked at each other. The ruthless path is one of the inheritances of human civilization. I once misunderstood the ruthless path. Now I want to understand it more. Xuanhuan was surprised. You want to cultivate the ruthless path? Luin nodded. Xuanhuan said, a person's energy is limited. Mr. Lu, you have reached your current height, which is unprecedented. Even during the 9 Bases era, you were considered one of the top powers. Why do you need to cultivate other powers? Not only is it not beneficial, but it will also be harmful. Moreover, you don't understand the ruthless path. It cannot coexist with other powers. Luin smiled and said, I know the characteristics of the ruthless path very well. However, I'm only cultivating the ruthless path to perfect my state of mind. I don't cultivate its power, only its will. I see. Then I'll tell you some stories. Perhaps you can comprehend the ruthless path from them, Xuanhuan said. Luin was grateful. Thank you, senior. The stories that Xuanhuan told might have originated from the history of the second stronghold, or they might have been made up by him. No matter the origin of the stories, they were in line with Xuanhuan's ruthless path. Xuanhuan's ruthless path was the ruthless path of the second stronghold. Luin listened to the stories and immersed himself in them. It was as if he had become one of the people in the stories, experiencing different choices and experiencing different states of mind. Under the same starry sky, Red Hero kept watching. Lu Yin had probably come here to find out the target universe of Miao Zun's test through him. He would not tell Lu Yin now, as telling Lu Yin now would allow Lu Yin to be prepared. Wait, as Miao Zun would not act so quickly. Red Hero would only tell Lu Yin the target when Miao Zun acted. When that time came, Red Hero would have to rely on teleportation to rush over. This would give Red Hero an excuse to attack Lu Yin. Even if Lu Yin did not completely break the rules, he would make Lu Yin walk on the edge of breaking the rules. If one Miao Zun was not enough, then two would come. Lu Yin could deal with one, but what about the second? There would definitely be one that could make him break the rules as long as he did not worship the divine tree. You can only find out the target universe by yourself, and it will definitely make you wait until the very last moment. Red Hero sneered at this thought and closed his eyes. Time continued to pass, and in the blink of an eye 20 years had passed. During these 20 years, Lu Yin had been sitting in front of the blood tower. Sometimes he would listen to Jiuwen tell him stories, sometimes he would ponder, and sometimes he would discuss with Jiuwen. Time passed quickly as well. Senior, I've heard that there's a saying in the second stronghold, red robes under the stars have no Tao, but red frost is the most emotional. You've told many stories and they include love and affection. Love and affection are behavioral choices, while the Tao of heartlessness is a choice of one's state of mind. Behavior and state of mind cannot conflict, but if there is no conflict, is it still true love? If there is a conflict, how can there be love under the Tao of heartlessness? The Tao of heartlessness can be heartlessness toward oneself, but it can also be heartlessness toward others. But love and affection are also toward oneself and others. Jiuwen looked deeply at Lu Yin. The Tao of heartlessness is broad and profound, and it cannot be summed up simply by behavior and state of mind. If you really want to improve your state of mind through the Tao of heartlessness, 20 years are not enough. 200 years or even 2,000 years are not enough. At the end of the 9th base, Red Hero betrayed me. At that time, I was just a young cultivator with some talent, but I was able to maintain my state of mind under Red Hero's influence for countless years. Do you know why? Lu Yin shook his head. Senior, please enlighten me. Because of shock. Shock. There are some things that you can't forget once you see them. You can't forget them no matter what. Mr. Lu, do you want to take a look? Lu Yin's eyes lit up. Senior, please grant me my wish. All right, take a look. Jiuwen's gaze was complicated. Perhaps this scene will allow you to see the true Tao of heartlessness. In Lu Yin's hand, the karma spiral shuttled towards the blood tower. Finally, it passed through the blood tower and Jiuwen's body, creating scenes of the past. At this moment, karma could create whatever Jiuwen recalled. Jiuwen raised his head and looked at his karma past. This is the tomb of the Red Lotus. On the dilapidated ground, broken swords were stabbed into the ground. The world was dyed red, and broken umbrellas danced in the wind. Smoke rose everywhere. A figure walked alone on the ground. He stepped barefoot on the fragments of swords, leaving behind traces of blood along the way. He was climbing towards the mountain peak. Along the way there were broken sword fragments. Some broken swords were connected to broken limbs, and blood dyed the mountain peak red. On the mountain peak there were two figures. One was a woman and the other was a spear. The spear pierced into the woman's body and pierced through her. The spear hilt was deeply embedded in the mountain peak. The woman's blood flowed along the spear hilt and flowed from the mountain peak to the ground. In the dark red sky, 3 immortal feathers danced and let out cheerful cries. They seemed to be mocking and playing around. From time to time, a sharp light flashed past, sweeping the person climbing towards the mountain peak down and tearing apart a large piece of flesh. However, that person did not give up. His gaze was always fixed on the woman on the mountain peak. He walked towards her step by step. No matter how the broken swords tore at his feet, the world stopped him. Step by step, he climbed resolutely towards the mountain peak. He fell and climbed again and again. His flesh and blood withered, but his gaze did not change at all. Flames burned the starry sky and burned the ground. The figure continued to climb resolutely. Finally, he arrived in front of the woman. He raised his hand and grabbed the woman's palm. Without hesitation, he pierced through the spear with his body and hugged it. He revealed a blissful smile. Their blood dripped down the spear. And at this moment, the wind and clouds surged in the world, and the flames were instantly extinguished. From the earth, red color penetrated through and covered the void, freezing the entire earth and the 3 fluttering immortal feathers in the starry sky. In the end, it turned into a dark red crystal, shining brightly in the depths of the darkness. Lu Yin looked at this scene in shock. He forgot about his surroundings. In his eyes, there was only the figure climbing the mountain peak resolutely. There was only the figure who was still standing after being pierced through by the spear. This is the Red Lotus tomb? Xianhuan exhaled heavily. A tomb where 3 immortal feathers are buried. It carries the liberation of the ancestors and completes the ultimate profound meaning of the way of emotionlessness. The name of that place is the Red Lotus. That's why it's called the Red Lotus tomb. Chapter 4361. Luyin and Xianhuan looked at each other. Even after so many years, the shock in Xianhuan's eyes did not fade when he recalled this scene. Mr. Lu, what is heartless? What is love? If heartless is defeated, love can bury everything. How lucky I am to see this scene. This is the true path of heartless. Xianhuan picked up the wine gourd and drank the last mouthful. He let go and the wine gourd fell and shattered. Red clothes under the stars is heartless, but red frost is the most heartless. I didn't see red frost's love. But to be able to see this scene, death is enough. Luyin looked at the starry sky. The path of heartless, the path of heartless, perhaps the path of heartless was the most heartless. The shock brought by the Red Lotus tomb made Luyin silent. He did not know what to say. He only knew that he would never forget that scene. After that, Luyin did not say anything. Xianhuan could no longer help him. What Luyin could comprehend from the Red Lotus tomb was his own business. Many cultivators of the path of heartless could never see their own path. One look at the Red Lotus tomb. Thousands of heartless paths. Another 3 years passed. On this day, Red Hero walked out of the void and came behind Luyin. You were waiting for me. Luyin turned back. Waiting for you? Red Hero looked at Luyin coldly. Stop pretending. You and I know very well that you want to know. I can tell you. I'm just here to cultivate the path of heartless. I don't want to know anything, especially from your mouth, because your path of heartless is wrong, Luyin said. Red Hero frowned. I said stop pretending. As he spoke, he raised his hand and a piece of jade flew to Luyin. These are the coordinates of Miao Zun's test. Go if you have the ability. When the jade landed, Luyin glanced at it. It was indeed the coordinates. He crushed the jade in front of Red Hero. Red Hero, I don't know what you want to do. What does Miao Zun's test have to do with me? Red Hero's gaze turned cold. You're not stopping it? Why should I stop it? If it joins the unknown, it will increase our strength. Do you want to stop it? Without waiting for Red Hero to refute, Luyin scolded, I knew you were disloyal. Mudblade got rid of you. I thought you were stupid, but it seems like you have ulterior motives. Red Hero, you want to betray us? Nonsense, are you sure you don't want to go? Red Hero didn't believe him. Luyin sneered, what, you want to force me? I know you want to use my teleportation to quickly find Miao Zun and stop him from joining the unknown ones. Let me tell you, stop dreaming. I won't help you. Heaven and earth can be my witness to my feelings towards the unknown ones. These words made Drunkard Man confused. What did this brat mean? Xianxia looked at Luyin strangely. Was he really that loyal? Red Hero was also dumbfounded. What was going on? That shouldn't be the case. Could it be that this kid would allow Miao Zun to join the unknown ones? Putting aside Miao Zun's attitude towards the human civilization, once he joined, he would have to worship the divine tree. With his personality, would he be willing to do that? What exactly happened? He had a feeling that everything was out of his control. Wait, based on my understanding of this kid, it's impossible for him to allow Miao Zun to join. Now that he's not stopping him, there's only one possibility. He already knows the coordinates. Yes, I already know the coordinates, but I waited until now to tell him. It's not impossible for him to know the coordinates in advance. He's using me to create an alibi. There must be other masters who went to deal with Miao Zun. Red Hero's gaze changed. Who told him the coordinates? The mastermind behind the scenes who wanted to deal with him? Luyin stared at Red Hero. He was also curious about who told him the coordinates. Help him? He didn't believe that no one in the unknown would sincerely help him. Another possibility was to deal with Red Hero. If he really broke the rules of the unknown, he wouldn't be able to deal with Red Hero. They weren't the only ones who wanted to deal with Red Hero. There was also a hidden mastermind behind the scenes. They once guessed that the mastermind belonged to the unknown. Now they were even more certain. It must be one of the unknown. Luyin and Red Hero had the same thought, but this matter was beneficial to them. Red Hero didn't expect the mastermind behind the scenes to help Luyin, causing his plan to fail. His gaze was cold as he stared at Luyin. He sneered, I betrayed Jiolei, but now you're betraying the current human civilization. Then he disappeared. Luyin watched Red Hero leave and slowly clenched his fists. There was always a shadow behind their war with Red Hero. If that shadow wasn't found, it would be disadvantageous for them. They didn't know what kind of grudge the mastermind had with Red Hero, but no matter what, dealing with Red Hero would consume the power of human civilization. Just as Red Hero said, if every step was calculated by the mastermind, they would be unlucky sooner or later. What was the difference between this and betraying human civilization? To deal with Red Hero, they had to first find the mastermind behind the scenes and let that existence fight with Red Hero. Only then could they escape. Otherwise they would be too passive. Far away, the civilization that Luin had seen before was now in a war. The fight between the Eternal Realm experts had turned the universe upside down. In the universe, different species were fighting. Green blood rain fell, turning the entire sky green. Even further away, Miao Zun's gaze was ferocious with a smile. Kill, kill. Only by killing that Eternal Realm expert could he join the unknown. He had to pay the price for this. Compared to the karmic restraint of killing an Eternal Realm expert and the survival of a civilization, as long as the civilization had more than one Eternal Realm expert, the latter was more important. They had been too naive to think that they could defeat the unknown. Now that they thought about it, it was laughable. Since they couldn't win, they would join. From then on, they would join the unknown as well. Unfortunately, the creatures of this civilization weren't tasty. After living for so long, the most delicious thing was still the human civilization. The taste was too delicious. He hoped that the unknown could help him find the human civilization. As he thought about it, an indescribable pressure suddenly descended. His eyes widened. Not good, he quickly dodged. He was a step too late. The Seven Treasures Heavenly Toad's boss leaped up and slammed his claws down. With the support of terrifying gravity, the claws penetrated Miao Zun's body, causing him to wail. Who are you? Why are you attacking me? Boss's lips curled up. Blame yourself for coming out at the wrong time. He then swept his claws and tore a third of Miao Zun's body apart. Miao Zun wasn't weak and was comparable to Lan Meng, but Boss was an absolute powerhouse who was compatible with two laws of the universe. Even if he couldn't compare to a peak existence like Red Hero, Miao Zun couldn't compare to him. Miao Zun's 10 strong legs stomped toward Boss. Boss casually slapped Miao Zun, and the gravity swept him away like a piece of paper. Miao Zun's strong legs aimed at Boss and released a silent force. This was his talent. This silent force was enough to tear apart the body of an ordinary Eternal Realm. It was like a sound wave, but it had no effect on Boss. Boss raised his claws and put his palms together. In the starry sky, a huge gravity extended from both sides and expanded infinitely, enveloping Miao Zun. In the distance, the two Eternal Realm experts who were fighting separated and looked over in fear. What a terrifying power. They tacitly stopped fighting. God knows what would happen if they continued fighting. Miao Zun roared, I am the unknown, I am the unknown. You can't kill me. The unknown won't let you go. He opened his mouth, and an invisible world appeared, the Silent Realm. Under the Silent Realm, Boss's body exploded. He was surprised. Interesting. So it was this kind of power. All creatures had blood flowing in their bodies. When there was blood flowing, there would be sound, but ordinary people couldn't hear it. If this sound was taken away, it could also stop the flow of blood. It could further stop the operation of combat skills, which was equivalent to forcibly stopping creatures from attacking. However, this move couldn't affect Boss. The gap was too big. Boss pressed the gravity on the surface of his body. It was like a layer of black curtain covering the world that Miao Zun couldn't see. On the surface of Miao Zun's body, the vitality boiled. Together with the Eternal Realm substance, he sent out countless sound waves to Boss. Their sound waves. Every sound wave was extremely lethal. Boss's eyes widened. It was over. The gravity slammed his palms together. Miao Zun spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was squashed and all his power dissipated. His body floated in the starry sky powerlessly. He was only one breath away from death. Boss grabbed Miao Zun and went to the place agreed with Luin. Not only the Seven Treasures Heavenly Toad clan was there, but Xuetayu was also there. Boss threw Miao Zun on the ground. I'll leave him to you. Xuetayu looked at the half-dead Miao Zun and praised, as expected of Boss. This Miao Zun isn't weak, but he couldn't even hurt you. Boss was happy to hear this. He grinned, I've done what I promised Luin. Then let's part ways here. Behind him, Old 4, Old 5 and Star Toad were all there. Boss wanted to take them away to find little 18 along the Jade Line sky. They had to leave the area of the square inch. Xuetayu nodded, let's part ways here. Old 4 and Old 5 looked at each other. They wanted to say something but they didn't. They were unwilling. Ancestor Shan was dead, and they had to leave without taking revenge. Boss was also unwilling, but what could he do? He could only come back when he broke through and matched the 3 universal laws. It wasn't that he wasn't coming back, but he was leaving temporarily. The human civilization had provoked too many strong enemies. The 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan didn't want to die with them. Star Toad was the most reluctant. He wanted to stay, but he had to be taken away. He was very important to the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan. Boss patted Star Toad. "Child, let's go." Star Toad looked at Shuetayu and then looked into the distance. It was the direction of the human civilization. He really didn't want to leave. Not long after, Boss left with the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan. Peace returned to the starry sky. The unknown door was also destroyed. Miao Zun's target civilization wasn't destroyed. He had failed the test. Miao Zun himself was captured. Knowing trace. Ba Color's voice was heard. Miao Zun failed the test. He will no longer be invited to join. What? Failed? How could he fail? Demao was shocked. They had been waiting for the test results. The results didn't have much to do with Miao Zun, but it was directly related to Lu Yin. Miao Zun's attitude towards the human civilization and Lu Yin's need to enter knowing trace to worship the divine tree was what they wanted to see. They didn't expect that they would fail the test. Did that little guy make a move? The old guy asked. Demao said, it must have something to do with that guy. Otherwise, Miao Zun wouldn't have failed the test with his strength. Moreover, Miao Zun is probably dead. Ba Color said, we don't know if Miao Zun is dead or alive. The one who did it is 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad. Chapter 4362. Demao sneered, as expected it's Lu Yin. 8 Color, even if Lu Yin didn't break the rules, he's slapping the unknown in the face. You were the one who invited Miao Zun to join. The old man laughed and said, interesting. Another voice sounded, this human is very despicable. 8 Color, ask Lu Yin to give an explanation. He must have broken the rules in this matter. The unknown won't allow this to happen. Another voice sounded. Demao was surprised. Oh, even the old man who never speaks has spoken. 8 Color, I have to give him face. 8 Color said, Lu Yin didn't break the rules in this matter. If you want to confront him, you can. After saying that, he contacted Master Greengrass. Then he found out that Lu Yin was in the Red Coat civilization below the star and immediately contacted Red Hero. Not long after, Lu Yin disappeared. It seemed that Miao Zun had been dealt with. 8 Color, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Lu Yin asked. 8 Color said, Miao Zun failed the assessment. I don't know if he's dead or alive. The one who attacked, the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad. Lu Yin was surprised. 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad? Where are those traitors? Tell me, my human civilization was kind enough to take them in, but they ran away. I won't let them go. Demao sneered. Lu Yin, stop pretending you were the one who ordered the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad to deal with Miao Zun, otherwise how could they go? It's so far away, other than your teleportation and my unknown portal, it's impossible to reach in just a few decades. Lu Yin raised his eyebrows. You mean I'm dealing with Miao Zun? Isn't that so? Demao, your brain is full of hair. You're saying such things. You. What about me? Use your brain and think about it. Would I lose the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan to deal with a mere Miao Zun? 8 Color, go and take a look. The 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan has run away and completely left our human civilization. This can't be faked. Also, how do I know where Miao Zun's assessment is? Go and ask Red Hero. I've been in the Red Coat civilization below the star for more than 20 years. Go and ask him. These words made Demao not sure. The 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad clan's departure. Perhaps it was because they were about to leave and use this matter. However, if Lu Yin hadn't left the Red Shirt civilization in the past 20 years, then how could he have brought the 7 Treasures Heavenly Toad tribe over? It had been more than 20 years. If they were to plan ahead, they would have to know the test coordinates in advance. At that time, they had only just found out. Red Hero would not be so stupid as to tell him the coordinates at that time. Jizong fell silent. An unfamiliar voice said, Orange, is what Lu Yin said true? Lu Yin's eyes flashed. This was an unfamiliar voice. Was this an old fellow from the unknown hiding place? Red Hero did not answer. Lu Yin sneered, What's wrong, Red Hero? Are you unwilling to testify for me? That's not up to you. The truth is the truth. It's useless even if you want to hide it. 8 Colors said, Orange, please answer. Red Hero opened his mouth helplessly. His voice was low and filled with unwillingness. Yes. Speak clearly, Luin reminded. Red Hero's tone gradually turned cold. He has been in the Red Coat civilization under my star for the past 23 years. He has never left. It was indeed frustrating to have someone testify for the enemy. All the unknowns felt it, but there was nothing they could do. The truth was the truth, and Red Hero's words were the most trustworthy. Demao could not say anything. Everyone knew that Luin was the one who dealt with Miao Zun. This was also a fact, but it was a fact that no one could prove. Luin was now on the verge of breaking the rules. No one asked how the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad found Miao Zun in just 23 years. Luin could also say that he did not know. He did not need to be responsible for the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad. If that's the case, then this matter is over. Miao Zun has failed the test. If anyone is suitable, you can invite them to join, 8 Colors concluded. Yellow was unwilling. This matter is over? What about the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad? Luin frowned. Yellow was even more hateful than Demao. He had his eyes on him. What I'm going to say next is related to the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad. 8 Colors said slowly, the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad has disappeared through the Jade crack in the sky. If you want to find them, you must capture the Jade crack in the sky. At the same time, capturing the Jade crack in the sky and destroying the Jade Universe is a mission unknown to me. Once the location of the Jade Universe is determined, a forced expedition may begin. Please be prepared. Luin was surprised. Forced expedition? Again? Isn't destroying the Jade Universe a 4-star mission? Who has already taken it? Why is there a forced expedition? It did not say that the target of the forced expedition is the Jade Universe, 8 Colors explained. There are not many forced expeditions in the history of the unknown, but there are also quite a few. Little guy, do you want me to save you this time? The old man laughed. Luin said, even if the forced expedition does not have the rogue characteristics of the Muddy Kingdom, you will still be bound by the karma if you are not careful. Do you want me to help you this time? Eradicating the Jade Universe is a mission. At the same time, we have to deal with the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad clan. This clan used to be the enemy of the unknown. If it was not for Elder Shan's strength, they would have been destroyed long ago, Yellow said. Luin's face darkened. 8 Colors, since Luin said that the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad clan betrayed the human civilization, let him deal with this clan. Consider it a mission for him, Yellow continued. Luin's gaze turned cold. Yellow, I think your brain is worse than Red Hero's. I have an unknown mission, and the boss of the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad clan is an existence that fits the laws of 2 universes. You should be the ones to deal with it. Or are you saying that you don't have the ability? Just say it if you don't have the ability. I think you are worse than Demao. It was right to call you Air Mao. What do you think, Air Mao? Yellow's voice was cold. Don't you want to deal with the 7 treasures Heavenly Toad clan? But this clan must be destroyed whether it's you or me. If you don't want to do it, leave it to me. Luin sneered. Sure. Air Mao dared to say that. Leave it to him? Could it be that he was confident in dealing with Boss and the others? Or was he the one who had his eyes on Elder Shan? Luin suddenly thought of this. Alright, Luin dodged another bullet. He can stop one Miao Zun, but he can't stop a second one. Am I right, Luin? Demao provoked. Luin said calmly, it has nothing to do with me. I am innocent. 8 Colors, I will go and capture that jade-lined sky. Open the door for me. Demao did not pester him. Luin said, let me go. This is my mission. Demao said, this is also my mission. Luin did not argue. It was meaningless. Even if he captured jade-lined sky, he could not wait for Boss and the others to find little 18. 8 Colors, I suggest that you join the new unknowns as soon as possible. Since Jade-Line Sky has been captured, I believe the war will begin soon. 8 Colors said, there are suitable creatures and they are communicating with them. Is that so? I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it too. Demao smiled. Let's see who can stop it. Luin left knowing Trace and said goodbye to Jianghu before returning to the 3 universes. There was no need to stay here now. He had to find a way to give the unknown something to do. Otherwise, he would not be able to stop new creatures from joining. He did not know how Boss and the others were doing through Jade-Line Sky. The other side was most likely the Jade Universe. Even so, Boss and the others could protect themselves with their strength. Not to mention the Jade Universe, even if Boss could not defeat those unknowns would not necessarily bear the karma of killing them. This was the confidence of the eternal realm. The problem now was that 8 colors would soon invite new people to join them. How could he find something to do? There was also Miao Zun. He had something to ask, but he could not release him yet. Who knew if there was a way to find him? Even if he was released for interrogation, it would take some time. Luin looked back at the red shirt civilization below the planet. He still had 2 coordinates. One was definitely Demao's, but where was the other? Red Hero had given him coordinates twice. The first time there were 4 and the second time there were 3. He had clearly said that Demao's coordinates were on both occasions. Luin looked at the 2 coordinates. This one was slightly closer, but it was also slightly further than the 10-eyed crow's location. It was very likely to be Demao's location since the other coordinate was too far away. Suddenly he thought of something and stared at the other coordinate. If Red Hero had given this coordinate to deal with him, then the one that could deal with him the most and was also related to Red Hero was Xianling. Yes, it was Xianling. Red Hero was very powerful, and he had found more than one coordinate that was a threat to him. Royujo and the 10-eyed crow were both. Luin had seen too few abilities that could threaten him with teleportation, and it was already quite impressive that Red Hero had found 2. He did not believe that Red Hero had more. Xianling was the only one that posed the greatest threat to him. Red Hero had once betrayed humanity and knelt before Xianling, so it was not impossible for him to know Xianling's location. Even Immortal Master had been controlled because he had accidentally found Xianling's civilization. Yes, it was Xianling. He should have thought of it earlier. Red Hero had not given Xianling the coordinates from the start because the distance was too far, and he was afraid that Luin would immediately guess it. Red Hero would rather use Royujo and the 10-eyed crow as a means to deal with Luin. In the end, when Luin could not even deal with the 10-eyed crow, he had given Xianling's coordinates. That should be it. Luin put away the coordinates. He knew what kind of trouble he should cause for the unknown. Before that, he would go to another coordinate. After teleporting again and again, Luin arrived at another coordinate. He was 20 years away from the Eternal Realm, and he saw the Mother Forest. It was the Mother Forest again? How many Mother Forests did Demao hide? He teleported into the Mother Forest, and not long after, the forest disappeared. All the green dots entered the void of space in his heart. Very good, there was another group. Demao was not here as he had gone to capture Jadeline's sky. There was another door besides the Mother Forest. Luin glanced at the door and then destroyed it. He would let Demao find a way to return on its own. Luin teleported several times away from the previous location and then lay down in the hanging coffin. He entered Trace and waited for Demao. After some time, Demao entered Trace with anger and curses. He cursed more fiercely than he had ever cursed before because the door to return had been destroyed. He contacted 8 Color and asked it to return, but when it saw that the Mother Forest was gone, the first thing it thought of was Luin. End of chapter. Chapter 4363. Demao wasn't scolding Luin but Red Hero. The scolding had completely lost its composure, and the divine tree was shaking. Che said kindly, "Could it be a misunderstanding? It might not be Luin." Demao was furious. "Shut up, it has nothing to do with you. The Mother Forest is gone, who else would want it except for Luin? Red Hero, come out and fight me if you dare." The old man was speechless. "Why is Red Hero so clear about your whereabouts? Shouldn't you reflect on yourself?" Demao was speechless for a moment. He was too careless. Red Hero must have been watching him. He thought Red Hero only knew 1 or 2 of his locations. Now it seemed that was not the case. But why was Red Hero watching him? Was he trying to plot against him? Demao broke out in a cold sweat. If he really wanted to plot against him, he might not be able to escape. Although he was confident in fighting Red Hero, plotting against him was another matter. Fortunately, Luin forced Red Hero into a corner and kept exposing his location. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known that Red Hero was watching him so closely. No, he had to change all his locations. If Red Hero forced him to do this, he wouldn't have an easy time. "I told you Luin found me once. I'll expose you guys. Luin, I know you're here. Listen, all the unknown portals come from white," Demao shouted. Sigh. A loud shout was heard. It came from 8 Colors. Luin was shocked. He had never seen 8 Colors angry. Knowing whereabouts was silent. The divine tree shook. At this moment, the multicolored light was filled with coldness. It made Luin want to leave knowing whereabouts subconsciously. He felt as if the sky was falling and the earth was caving in. Was this the power of 8 Colors? It was just his consciousness entering knowing whereabouts. 8 colors, you don't have to threaten me. Everyone knows the rules of the unknown. I didn't break the rules. It was Red Hero who broke the rules. You should look for him. Demao was fearless. 8 colors didn't answer, and knowing whereabouts fell into silence. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. First it was clear, then 8 colors, they were all angry. He couldn't force them anymore or the situation would get out of control. He knew a lot during this time. 8 colors would definitely find a way to stop Red Hero from giving him Demao's coordinates. They had to compromise with each other and he had to compromise too. Let's change direction. At the same time, 8 colors. Red Hero's voice was cold. You shouldn't have intervened. I didn't break the rules. Sometimes the unspoken rules were better than the rules. More importantly, do you understand? Orange. I know, but I also want an answer. I didn't join the unknowns just to be schemed against. What answer do you want? Who told you what I said? Who is scheming against me behind the scenes? I want this answer. I can't give you an answer. That's why Lu Yin can help me find it. Orange, do you still remember why you chose unknown instead of immortal feather? Red Hero's body trembled as fear flashed through his eyes. It's too late when the unknown terror hits you. Jiolei can't bear it and neither can you, said 8 colors slowly. Red Hero took a deep breath. After so many years he thought that he had forgotten that fear, but at this moment, it appeared again. That's right, he had forgotten. He had always wanted to break through for no other reason than to break free from that fear. However, he was now provoking that fear. Lu Yin could provoke him because he couldn't see clearly, but he shouldn't. He had forgotten all about it. 8 colors, please tell me again that the unknowns can't attack each other, right? 8 colors said, yes. No one can break this rule, right? Yes. Okay, I understand. Last question, has my mission been completed? 8 colors said, not yet. Red Hero left. Lu Yin was still waiting at this moment. He was waiting for the result of this matter, but all he got was silence. In the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed and there was still no news. He knew that he couldn't wait any longer. He had to see Red Hero's attitude first. When he arrived at the Red Coat civilization, Lu Yin looked for Red Hero. Red Hero avoided him at first, but as Lu Yin began to forcefully take people away, he couldn't help but come out. If you take one more person away, I'll kill one of the remaining people. These were Red Hero's words that spread throughout the Red Coat civilization. Lu Yin didn't doubt that Red Hero would do it. This kind of person had no bottom line. You know why I'm here. Cut the crap. You have your plan and I have mine. Hurry up. Red Hero stared at Lu Yin coldly. Have you seen all the coordinates I gave you? Lu Yin said indifferently, you gave me a total of 3 coordinates. The first one was Demao's and I found Demao's the second and third time. There are still some coordinates that I haven't seen. There's no need to just give me new ones. Anyway, the remaining coordinates definitely aren't Demao's. Maybe it's your trap. I don't plan to go. Red Hero left without saying a word. He didn't say anything, neither did he say anything. Lu Yin frowned. What? Don't you want to continue? We worked well together. A few more times and I might be able to get the information you want. Red Hero still didn't respond. What did 8 colors do to make Red Hero give up on using him to find the mastermind? For a moment, Lu Yin was even more afraid of 8 colors. Next, the last coordinate, Xianling. Lu Yin took a deep breath. He didn't dare to go there because it was scary. Similarly, he didn't dare to go to Xianling because there must be a powerhouse in Xianling who conformed to the 3 universal laws. But there was a fundamental difference between the two. If he went to Xianling, all the unknowns would know that he had gone. If he went to Xianling, Xianling wouldn't know in advance. Although it was risky, what wasn't risky on the path of cultivation? It was risky for him to go to the coordinates given by Red Hero. It was risky for him to participate in the forced expedition. If he didn't know that there would be new people joining, he would have to go to Xianling with his main body, which was even more risky. Compared to going to Xianling, he would rather go to the Xianling civilization. Legend had it that those strange birds were sleeping to resolve the karmic restraints. Yu Lu had awakened and just happened to go to the 3 universes. According to the Divine Master's speculation, if a stronger Xianling had awakened, it would join forces with Yu Lu to go to the 3 universes. Since it hadn't gone, it meant that no other Xianling had awakened. It was relatively safe to go to the Xianling civilization now. Lu Yin's eyes flickered, and he teleported in the direction of the 3 universes. He first avoided Red Hero's line of sight and took a detour to the last coordinate. In the Red Hero universe below the stars, Red Hero watched Lu Yin teleport and disappear. The distance of this teleportation didn't exceed his attack range. He could sense where Lu Ying had teleported to, but of course he couldn't see it. Did he go back? Other than the first coordinate that was given to the swordmaster, 7 coordinates were given in total for the last 2 times, including the 10-eyed crow and Xianling. This kid's luck was so good that he could find the swordmaster without touching any of the 2 coordinates. But even so, would he really not go to the rest of the coordinates? Red Hero didn't believe it. As long as he had the coordinates, there would be a day when this kid would find it. Whether it was the 10-eyed crow or Xianling, they could bury him, especially the 10-eyed crow. Those strange birds might be sleeping, but the 10-eyed crow was already dead. As long as he looked at it, he wouldn't be able to move. As long as he couldn't move, Lu Ying would die there. In order to get rid of you, I even revealed the location of the 10-eyed crow. That's something that even the unknowable and Xianling want, Red Hero muttered to himself, his eyes filled with coldness. The distance in the dark and deep space didn't seem to be any different, but after teleporting again and again, he would always notice the difference. A few days had passed since he left the Red Hero civilization below the stars. Lu Ying kept teleporting without stopping, and he was getting closer and closer to the coordinates. Ever since he obtained the teleportation talent, he had never teleported so frequently. To be honest, the further he was from the 3 universes, the more nervous he was. If it was an ordinary eternal realm, it would take a very long time to rush back. But he still hadn't reached the destination. Continue. He guessed that the furthest coordinate was Xianling, but seeing it with his own eyes gave him a different feeling. Looking at the big tree that almost propped up the universe in the distance, Lu Ying felt like he was facing the unknowable divine tree. The unknowable divine tree was also so big and majestic. The mother tree seemed small in front of the divine tree, and Xianling's tree was just as small as the divine tree. Countless creatures flew, but they all circled around the big tree and didn't go up. It was as if there was an invisible force suppressing those creatures. That should be where Xianling was. Xianling and those strange birds probably lived on the tree crown. Lu Ying didn't dare to look at the tree crown. After reaching a certain level, one could sense it with their eyes no matter how far away they were. He suppressed his aura, took out the hanging coffin and drew a door. This door could directly enter Zhizong. Zhizong had asked him to worship the divine tree, so he would place it here. He couldn't stop the 8 colors from finding new members to join the unknowns, so he could only find something for them to do. But he couldn't be sure of the time. He couldn't be sure when Xianling would discover this door. As for luring it, it was impossible. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to escape once he did. He had taken a huge risk by coming here. After placing the door in place, Lu Ying looked at the big tree in the distance, and a dark red land appeared in his mind. Xianling danced in the wind, and a lonely figure climbed the mountain peak. The hatred of the Red Lotus Tomb and the enmity of the 9th base would be settled one day. Lu Ying teleported away and rushed back to the 3 universes. He entered the Mirage domain and used it to cultivate the mirroring technique. The time he could see was still too short and he wanted to see further. If he could see a distance of 100 or 200 years, then he wouldn't be afraid. Even existences that conformed to the laws of the 3 universes would find it difficult to detect them. Time continued to pass and Lu Ying continued to deduce the mirroring technique. 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, 50 years. He exhaled. 50 years was enough for him to see the distance of an ordinary eternal realm. He rubbed his head. It would be great if he could control that technological fishing civilization and use their abilities to deduce the technique faster. He walked towards the forbidden area and tried to look for xuanhuan again. He walked around but couldn't find her. He was unwilling to give up and looked around a few more times, but he still couldn't find her. If that door could really lure Xianling and the unknowns to fight, then he would definitely appear on the battlefield. How should he deal with Xianling? Should he bring Uncle Jiang along? That would be inconvenient. Chapter 4364. Red Hero's method was effective, but he did not cultivate the ruthless path and could not use the red umbrella to capture the strange bird. It would be great if he could find the second barrier's treasure, the turbid red umbrella. That umbrella would definitely be successful. Xianling's teleportation could break through the ruthless path's Sanluo umbrella prison. On the other hand, the Sanluo umbrella prison was also the nemesis of teleportation. If he could not find the treasure, what about others? Lu Ying thought for a moment and headed towards the Red Coat civilization. My red umbrella? Xuanhuan was surprised. Lu Ying nodded. I know this request is overboard, but to deal with Xianling I have to use the ruthless path. I can't cultivate it myself, so I want to try and see if I can use your red umbrella. Xuanhuan nodded. I see. Red Hero can suppress Xianling because of the Sunluo umbrella prison? But I heard that Xianling's teleportation is used to break through the Sunluo umbrella prison. How did Red Hero do it? Lu Yin explained Red Hero's method. It sounded simple, but whether it was the Sunluo umbrella prison or the unknown god power lines, they were not something ordinary people could possess. One had to possess two powers at the same time, and they were both inherited powers of the fishing civilization. No one could do it if they were placed alone in the unknown or the Red Coat civilization. Only Red Hero could weave a birdcage that could break through teleportation by combining two powers. If you don't cultivate the ruthless path, it's useless even if I give you the red umbrella. You can't even open it, Jianghu said. It was not that he was unwilling to give the red umbrella to Lu Yin. After all, he was someone who was ready to die at any time. It was useless to keep the red umbrella. However, what was the point of handing over the red umbrella if he could not use it? Lu Yin had already thought about this. What level do I have to reach to open your red umbrella? Jianghu thought for a moment. It's not about strength but about perseverance towards the ruthless path. My second barrier's treasure is the red umbrella. It belongs to the Red Frost Fortress Master. However, other than the Fortress Master, there are still people who can open it because of perseverance. In other words, it's recognition of the ruthless path, or the ruthless path's recognition of this person. Although the ruthless path is different, it originates from the same power and philosophy. Lu Yin took out the jade that xuanhuan had used to become Lu Yin's disciple from his cosmic ring and scattered it across the entire Red Shirt civilization. Back then, countless people had taken pictures of this scene to let the Red Shirt civilization know that Lu Yin would not treat the Red Shirts differently. Among his disciples there were Red Shirt cultivators. At the same time, Jianghu also saw it. He saw xuanhuan climb the celestial stairway step by step and become Lu Yin's disciple. After that, he struggled between the Heartless Tao and the Nirvana tree. Xuanhuan was clearly unwilling to cultivate the Heartless Path. He had wanted to escape from the Red Coat civilization countless times. However, at that moment he had chosen the Heartless Path. He had made up his mind. Jianghu had seen that determination in his eyes. It was as if he saw his master and his past self. He saw the man with his back facing all living beings, climbing the peak. In the end, he was the one who buried himself, his lover, and his 3 immortal feathers. Then, it was the Heartless Tao, the persistence and the desire for the Heartless Tao. Can he open Senior's red umbrella? Lu Yin asked. At that moment, ripples appeared in the starry sky. They came from a corner. All the images dissipated and the jade shattered. The Red Hero had made his move. Lu Yin did not stop him. After all, many people had seen it. It would eventually spread. When the Red Coats under the stars entered the 3 universes in the future, the difficulty of breaking in would be much lower. Jianghu laughed. His laughter was carefree and filled with gratification. I didn't expect to see that kind of gaze in the current Red Coat era. Everyone was wrong. Only he was right. The Red Coat under the stars that he had always wanted to leave was the Red Coat under the stars that I and the Red Hero had led him astray. The Heartless Path has a successor. Lu Yin also laughed. Didn't you think of this long ago, Senior? Jianghu shook his head. I've always thought that xuanhuan hated the Heartless Path and could not see his intentions clearly. Actually, it was fortunate that this was the case. If I had seen his obsession with the Heartless Path, I might have unconsciously protected him. Then I would have been exposed and it would have been easy for the Red Hero to notice. He looked up at the starry sky. I didn't expect that there would be a cultivator who could uphold the original Heartless Path in the current situation. Mr. Lu, do you know how difficult it is? Lu Yin nodded. Of course he knew. The entire universe was telling you that doing this was wrong. You should learn from them. They had a complete inheritance and were extremely strong. That was an attempt that had been proven to be correct. Under such circumstances, it was hard to imagine the perseverance and persistence needed to uphold one's own ideals. Even Lu Yin was not confident that he could do it. However, xuanhuan had not done it completely. He did not know what he hated about the Heartless Path. He did not know that the current Heartless Path was wrong. It was only because his innate gift dominated his heart. Of course, it was also not easy. In front of Jianghu, a red umbrella appeared and floated out of the blood tower. In the corner of the universe, the Red Hero saw this and wanted to stop him. However, Lu Yin was one step ahead of him. He grabbed the red umbrella and put it away. It was almost impossible to compete with the speed of teleportation. Furthermore, it was under the premise that Lu Yin was prepared. The Red Hero stared at Lu Yin. He wanted Jianghu's red umbrella to deal with Xianling. This person saw how the red hero dealt with his teleportation and wanted to follow suit. Would it be that easy? He did not cultivate the heartless path and wanted to rely on others to open the red umbrella to catch Xianling. Did he really think that those strange birds were easy to deal with? He understood why Lu Yin had let this universe see the scene of Chu Songyun becoming a disciple. Chu Songyun had actually been so persistent about the heartless path. This was beyond his expectations. If he had known this, he would have killed that brat long ago. However, it did not matter. Only when they truly faced Xianling would they know what despair was. If Xianling was so easy to deal with, she would not be a great enemy that even the unknowns would have a headache over. Did they really think that any civilization was qualified to participate in the siege of the 9th base? Did they really think that the red hero was so afraid of death that he was willing to bow down to any civilization? Xianling was different. Lu Yin left and brought Jiuwen's red umbrella back to the 3 universes. He then brought Chu Songyun into the Mirage domain. He wanted to weave a bird cage. This was the only way to deal with Xianling. Of course, he also knew that Xianling had many tricks up her sleeve. Since the red hero had done such a thing, Xianling would definitely be thinking of ways to deal with it. However, he was helpless as there was no other way. Crow immobilization was very useful, but since the 10-eyed crow had killed Xianling before, it meant that Xianling understood the characteristics of crow immobilization. Xianling could launch a sneak attack once, but she could not launch a sneak attack a second time. Compared to the red hero, Lu Yin did not cultivate the heartless path and needed Chu Songyun's help. This was his weakness. However, he had 3 strands of divine power, which was his advantage. Even if he could not control them, he could take it slow. There was no point in being anxious. Although there was no time in the Mirage domain, it was still a macroscopic view of the outside world. After some time, Lu Yin brought Chu Songyun out. After all, Chu Songyun had not reached immortality, and Lu Yin was also trying to control 2 strands of divine power. He could not continue trying in the Mirage domain. He had to come out from time to time. Time continued to pass, and in the blink of an eye, more than 100 years had passed. During this period, Lu Yin had continuously tried to weave a bird cage. At the same time, he had also deduced the mirroring technique. He would occasionally go to Xiang City to take a look, but he did not enter. Most of the time he was in the outside world and he was building his mental state wall. There was a path and he would be able to see the results if he continued walking down it. This was the most important thing right now. As for the bird cages, they were all completed in the Mirage domain. It would not affect the time he spent building the high wall of his heart. On this day, Lu Yin was planting seedlings. That's right, he was planting seedlings. He wanted to experience the ordinary life of the world. To the average person, a piece of land and a harvest was the most beautiful thing in the world. Watching the sun set and having a group of children was more reassuring than chasing after fame and fortune. Lu Yin was a little addicted to such days. This was also the ordinary life that he yearned for. However, a peaceful life would always be disrupted. Lu Yin's expression changed. He straightened his back in the field, took a step forward, and instantly disappeared. The people around him did not notice. At the edge of the karmic celestial phenomenon, under the starry sky, a creature with a semi-oval head and brown skin that looked like a stone wall was floating. The force of inertia pushed it in the direction of the 9 heavens universe. Lu Yin teleported and appeared and looked at this creature. It was actually an eternal realm creature. It looked like it was severely injured. Half of its head was gone, and its skin was not brown at the beginning. It was just torn open. This brown color was its blood, and it had dyed its entire body red. It had lost consciousness. Lu Yin caught it and brought it back, appearing in Yihai. Azure Lotus looked at this creature. An eternal realm creature was beaten so badly. It is not far from death. Otherwise, it would not have taken the risk to enter my karmic celestial phenomenon. Let's use karma to take a look. Lu Yin used karma to penetrate this creature and played out scenes of the past. Looking at the karma of an eternal realm creature took a long time. After a while, Lu Yin and Azure Lotus looked at each other. This eternal realm creature was actually from the Tufeng civilization. This was something they did not expect. In the past, this eternal realm creature had seen the karmic celestial phenomenon up close. There was another eternal realm creature beside it. He continued to look at the past. A few days later, Lu Yin exclaimed, "This Tufeng civilization is very strange." The so-called Tufeng civilization swallowed part of the flesh and blood of creatures and planted a seal in the creature's body. They can control the creature at will. The higher the cultivation of the creature, the more inclined it will be to the Tufeng civilization. That's why when I first saw the Tufeng civilization, the 5 eternal realms in it were almost not the same species. Azure Lotus sighed. There are many strange civilizations within the square meter. This method of tufing civilization seems powerful, but there are many restrictions. The range is their greatest limitation. Once they are discovered, the Eternal Realm creatures can pull the seal out. It won't affect anything. They are like rats that keep reproducing. But once they are discovered, they are easy to eradicate. In particular, these Eternal Realms are not very strong. Once they are planted with the seal, it limits the upper limit of their combat strength to a certain extent. They are at most comparable to that Eternal Realm monster, Luin said. At the same time, he also understood why the unknown mission was completed even though the Eternal Realm creatures had escaped from the Tufing civilization. That was because these Eternal Realm creatures did not belong to the Tufing civilization. Back then, she had been occupying the 9th stronghold and refused to let go, using the excuse that the mission was not completed. And its mission was indeed not completed because Mr. Mu and Senior Mu Zhu had escaped. Now that he thought about it, Red Hero's mission was not completed either. Some creatures in the Ro universe must have escaped as well. Chapter 4365. There was no need to consider what happened to the Tunfeng civilization. This civilization was destroyed, and these sealed creatures could not be sealed for other creatures. They were not essentially creatures of the Tunfeng civilization. They were just external creatures. What really made Luin curious was how it was beaten so badly. What had happened to an Eternal Realm creature? If it could threaten an Eternal Realm creature, it could naturally threaten human civilization. He continued to use karma to look at the creature's karma past. Luin and Qinglian saw a lot. They saw the creature's cultivation and fighting past. They saw the technological civilization destroying the Tunfeng civilization and the fight between it and another Eternal Realm creature that had escaped from the Tunfeng civilization because of the armor plates. Seeing this scene, Luin was pleasantly surprised. There were armor plates. An unexpected gain. Qinglian smiled. These armor plates represented Ancestor Shan's knowledge. If he could collect all of them, he should be able to see the past 9 bases and obtain something. The reason why these two Eternal Realm creatures that had escaped from the Tunfeng civilization turned against each other over the armor plates was that they could not destroy them. They knew that the armor plates were good things, and they were not bound by the Tunfeng civilization. These two creatures were not of the same species, so it was normal for them to fight each other. However, they encountered an accident halfway through the fight. Luin and Qinglian looked at the karma past. Another Eternal Realm creature was wrapped in an unknown white magma-like thing, and its entire body was distorted. It looked extremely painful. This Eternal Realm creature took the opportunity to escape, but it was also hunted down. In the end, it dragged its half-dead body and spent 100 years to arrive at the Karma Celestial Phenomenon. It entered the Karma Celestial Phenomenon to avoid the white magma. Luin looked in the direction of this Eternal Realm creature with the mirroring technique. He could now see about 50 years away. No, he did not see the white magma creature. Qinglian Yu's expression was solemn. Although these two Eternal Realm creatures are not strong and were injured from fighting each other, the white magma was able to attack them at the same time and render one of them defenseless. It is not weak. I will keep an eye outside the Karma Celestial Phenomenon. Luin searched this Eternal Realm creature and found 2 armor plates. However, in the Karma past, this Eternal Realm creature was clearly competing with the other for 5 armor plates. There are 3 armor plates with the other Eternal Realm creature. I'm going to get them back. Be careful of the white magma. Don't worry. Luin teleported and disappeared, heading in the direction where the Eternal Life Realm had encountered the white lava. Every time he teleported, it would take him 50 years to reach the Eternal Life Realm's speed. But there was nothing in the starry sky, and the traces of the battle had disappeared 100 years ago. After all, 100 years had passed. It was neither long nor short. Luin used mirroring to scan his surroundings, hoping that he would be lucky enough to see something. However, it was only 50 years, and the further he looked, the more he saw. The wider the range, it was impossible to include all of them. In the end, he returned to the 3 universes. While the Eternal Life Realm was still alive, he threw it into the general appointment platform hell to increase karma. This immortal realm was not a good person. In fact, it was unfair to describe creatures outside of human civilization as good or bad, because any creature outside of human civilization was not a good person for human civilization. Although the human civilization wanted to increase the number of immortal realm experts, they did not want everything. It would not do them any good to have more immortal realm experts, and they even had to be wary of them. At the very least, if the human civilization was in danger, this guy would definitely be the first to run. The human civilization already had a heaven-carrying immortal realm expert, so there was no need to add more immortal realm creatures. In the end, this immortal realm expert died because of its severe injuries. It did not even manage to increase karma completely. It was a wrong choice for it to escape to the human civilization. This also made Lu Yin think about what would happen if they encountered a life-and-death crisis one day and faced a foreign civilization. Would they hand their lives over to others? Teleporting to the consciousness universe, Lu Yin handed 2 pieces of armor to a 7 treasures heavenly toad and asked it to translate. Boss took away most of the 7 treasures heavenly toads and left some behind. It was to help Lu Yin translate the armor pieces, but it also did not want to put all of its eggs in one basket. After all, no one knew what would happen on the other side of Jade. Please help me translate. Thank you. Lu Yin handed the 2 pieces of armor to the 7 treasures heavenly toad in front of him. This 7 treasures heavenly toad was 25, which was younger than little 18. Its strength had reached the level of Dooku Air, but it was slightly weaker than the star toad. It was also the most powerful 7 treasures heavenly toad left behind. 25 took the armor piece. Don't worry, I'm very calm. Lu Yin? Looking at the 2 pieces of armor, 25 first stared at one of them with a conflicted expression. Lu Yin did not know how he could tell that the toad was conflicted, but it was conflicted. 25 looked at the armor piece and then at Lu Yin as if confirming something. Lu Yin felt uneasy. Could this guy be illiterate? 25 sighed as he thought about it. Lu Yin's heart was in his throat. You then. You're the most suitable. Lu Yin was confused. What? 25 said, this armor piece recorded 6th uncle's aura. I don't know why the ancestor left it behind. We can already feel 6th uncle's aura, so the aura on this armor piece is obviously for an outsider. 6th uncle? Old 6 of the 7 treasures heavenly toad? The one that Ancestor Shan called the most talented 7 treasures heavenly toad in history, the genius that could surpass it as long as he was alive? This old 6 was thrown outside because he made a mistake, right? Boss and the others all thought that he was dead, Lu Yin asked. 25 nodded with a melancholy look. Sir and the others are too naive. How could 6th uncle die so easily? Other than the ancestor, I'm the only one who guessed it. After all, I'm very calm and always think more about things. Lu Yin looked at the armor piece. Was it old 6's aura? The 7 treasures heavenly toads could sense each other's aura, so Ancestor Shan didn't have to do this. His only goal was for Lu Yin and the others to sense this aura and help find it if possible. This was a father's last hope for his son. Lu. 25 didn't know how to address Lu Yin. Call me 7th bro like the star toad. Okay, 7th bro. Is this aura for you or for others? Me. Okay. 25 placed the armor piece in Lu Yin's hand. The next moment, a warm current flowed into his body. It wasn't any kind of power, just some kind of aura. When the warm current entered his body, Lu Yin didn't feel anything. However, he knew that if old 6 appeared in a certain area one day, he would be able to sense it. There was also an armor piece. 25 looked at the armor piece carefully and didn't move for a long time. Lu Yin asked, hard to translate? I'm building up my emotions, 25 said. Lu Yin? He realized that he couldn't see through 25. Even the toad was so strange. Forget it, there's no need to build up your emotions. If your emotions aren't in place, you won't be calm. I'll just translate it into your language. 25 finished and wrote in the void. At this moment he was very serious and seemed to have some kind of sincerity. Lu Yin looked at the void and his gaze gradually changed. In this old man's life, there are 3 people that I admire. The first is the omnipresent. His name is unknown and his body is not seen. He watches the universe rise and fall, and sees the starry sky as nothing. The second is Pu Songhai's wisdom is like a plate. He has no words and is inconvenient to reveal. The third is the war god of 9 ramparts, Pan. Pan, the human civilization's war god of 9 ramparts. He wields the world's most powerful weapon, a divine steed that transcends time. 1 man, 1 weapon, and 1 horse. He alone guarded Xiang City. He fought against civilizations until the sun and moon lost their light. He was invincible. Only 2 words have been passed down, and they are the strongest of all time. This old man will never forget that when 9 ramparts was besieged by various civilizations, and when Xiang City was unable to fully defend itself, it was that person who walked out and said, I'll come. These 2 words scattered the enemies. Until his death, Xiang City remained impregnable. He lived up to his name, Pan. That battle left the war god in the human civilization forever. No creature in the universe dares to call themselves the war god. To this day, this old man still finds it difficult to see how high Pan's realm is. Relying on his own strength, he became the courage of a civilization. This old man Shan admires him. There weren't many words, but they left Luin speechless for a long time. He stared blankly at the words in the void, and he didn't regain his senses even after the words had completely disappeared. Patriarch Shan was a super powerhouse who was compatible with 3 laws of the universe, and he was also the strongest person Luin had ever met. There were 3 things that he admired in his life, and one of them was the human cultivators that he was unwilling to interact with. He could sense Patriarch Shan's rejection of the human civilization, but even so, Pan was still worthy of his admiration. One could only imagine how much shock Pan had given him back then. Humanity's war god, the courage of a civilization. He had killed until no creature dared to call themselves the war god. How heroic and valiant was this? Luin clenched his fists. Was there really someone who could rely on his own strength to defend a region while being surrounded by so many powerful civilizations? This confidence and this domineering aura would subdue even the enemy, let alone the human civilization itself. This was humanity's war god, Pan. That's all? Luin looked at 25. 25 shook his head. That's all. Luin frowned. What was the result? What happened to Pan? There was a sentence in the text that even in death, Xiang City was impregnable. Was Pan dead? Lu Yin's eyes were bloodshot. He could feel Pan's domineering aura, but he could also feel Pan's loneliness. Pan had defended a region by himself and no one could help him. He had relied on the 2 words, "I'll come." From the moment he had said those words, Lu Yin knew that he was the only one in that region. Lu Yin's emotions surged. He wanted to return to the primordial era and participate in that war. He wanted to stand by Pan's side, even if he had to support Pan's weapon. Pan was definitely not the only powerhouse who had died for the human civilization. Countless people had died in that war, and many had shed blood for the sake of the civilization's inheritance. However, there had still been betrayals, causing everyone's efforts to go to waste. Red hero, red hero. Lu Yin's eyes were filled with killing intent. No matter the price, he would kill Red Hero. There was also the unknown, Xianling, and the Death Universe. They had surrounded the 9th base, destroyed the inheritances, and toyed with the humans. He would not let any of them go. 25 silently retreated. What a strong killing intent. Calm down and retreat again. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.